Then on the strand, with steeds and treasure, and armor their roomy and ring-dight ship was heavily laden. High its mast rose over Hrothgar's hoarded gems. A sword to the boat-guard Beowulf gave, mounted with gold. On the mead bench, since he was better esteemed, that blade possessing heirloom old. Their ocean keel boarding, they drove through the deep, and Daneland left. A sea-cloth was set, a sail with ropes firm to the mast, the flood timbers moaned. Nor did wind over billows that wave-swimmer blow across from her course. The craft sped on, foam-necked it floated forth o'er the waves, keel firm-bound over briny currents, till they got them sight of the Geatish cliffs, home-known headlands. High the boat, stirred by winds, on the strand updrove. Helpful at haven the harbour guard stood, who long already for loved companions by the water had waited and watched afar. Dramatic opening. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Arvanauts. Welcome, everybody, to the amazing and awesomeness known as Trend Sparks and Beowulf. It is day 4 of Beowulf Age of Heroes, featuring Trend Sparks and Trend's character Arilfer, with the 3 Ogre Brothers Part 2. I hope everyone is excited for the next part of this portion of the Beowulf adventure. This is actually our 4th day overall of Beowulf, our 4th session overall, but the 2nd for Trend's character, and I am very excited to continue with the Ogre Brothers and see what's the deal with these 3 ogre brothers, and how do we, make them less ogre-y or whatever. So before I get there, just a couple of reminders about ways to support the channel. If you have not done so already, please follow the channel. Please check out our YouTube with !ArvTube. And if you are watching us over on YouTube right now, welcome. And please consider following us and subscribing not over on the YouTube channel. We've had a few more people jump on board. So we are now at a high, I believe, of subscribers to YouTube. So please keep that up. Thank you so much. And it's free to do so there, but it really helps us out. And you can also get all information about past broadcasts and the like. Please also head over to check out our Twitch channel, which is where we have our inspiration system set up and all of our folks chatting and stuff like that as well. If you haven't already done so, please consider joining our Discord, which is !ArvCord, where you can hang out with the Arvanauts in between streams. Twitter is !ArvTweets. Blue Sky is !ArvSky. Website for all this, arvaneleron.com. Financially, !ArvShop is the merchandise area where you can get stuff for Shire Adventures, for Adventures in Middle Earth, for the channel as a whole, just the Arvan Eleron channel, for Eberron Expedition, Oracle of War, and for Expedition from the Mysterious Peaks coming soon. Also, we may have a couple of other surprises related. Maybe there might be some Beowulf related things even that you might see coming up pretty soon on the merchandise area. So please get some swag for yourself and support the channel at the same time. If you haven't already done so, please as well consider supporting the Patreon, which is really the financial backbone of the channel and makes it possible for us to do things like commission videos and overlays and stuff like that. Please also consider, if you haven't done so already, supporting us by subscribing to the channel. That is also really helpful and gives you those custom sub badges and emotes to use everywhere across Twitch, plus, along with the Patreon, inspirations to help our players in their various endeavors. And if you haven't already done so, please consider supporting us on the publishing side of things as well. Icarus is my graphic novel from Athos Arts. Library is my Tales and Tomes from the Forbidden Forbidden Library. That's my 5e adventure and sourcebook from Alligator Alley Entertainment. And exclamation point Gray Shade. And I have some exciting news here, folks, more of which I'm going to convey in just a moment. But in Gray Shade, that accounts for Gray Shade and Renegade, plus the audiobook of Gray Shade done by our very own Trend Sparks, who you're about to hear more from in just a moment. Those three things are available right now at that link. You can also pre-order the tabletop role-playing game of Gray Shade done by Brandon O'Brien and Alligator Alley Entertainment. Had some good chats with Brandon about that. That is moving ahead. That will be out late this year. And I'm also happy to say, excuse me, not that. I'm not happy to say that part, but I am happy to say that we have got a new, that Heretic, the manuscript, the original draft of the manuscript is now finished. I completed it. I typed end last night. So the manuscript is now finished in that regard. I am now in the midst of doing an editing pass, which is going to take me about a week to 10 days, maybe 8 or 9 days in the end. And then I'm going to be sending that off to the amazing Emily Bell at Athos Arts for editing passes. And then there will be copy edits and beta reads and all that kind of good stuff. But I am happy to say, thank you, Triffid. I am happy to say that it is done. At least the original draft of it is done. I feel very good about it. There was a lot to land this plane, but I felt good about it. And even as I've been going through and editing again, I feel quite good about it. I feel good that I am that much closer to having an actual completed trilogy of books. And yeah, it's quite something. It is easily the longest book in the series. But it's definitely, we'll have spent, as I said before, like 250,000 some odd words with Gray Shade when all is said and done. So a lot of time to spend with a character that I've really enjoyed. So very excited about that. Thank you, Prince Justin. Yes, I never even saw you. And thank you to whoever that phantom person was that just spoke to me a second ago. Thank you, Prince Justin. Thank you, Triffid. So yes, so you can support us by checking out that link, exclamation point Gray Shade. And as always, exclamation point BLM, Black Lives Matter, important to affirm and assert the significance and importance of Black lives. Exclamation point Help Now, that's the World Health Organization page on suicide prevention. Important to reach out to others when you need help and reach out to others when they need help as well. And if you have not already done so, please also consider supporting Ukraine, exclamation point Ukraine, UKRAINE, to help the people of Ukraine as they fight back against an illegal and illegitimate war with bravery and courage, and send the message that we will do so for others in this situation, critically important in the future. Big day of streaming today. We have got Beowulf going on right now. Then tonight, or this afternoon, I should say, at 4:15 p.m. Eastern, I'll be over on GOG.com with Pen and Pixels playing some D&D with GOG Ghosts of Saltmarsh. That's going to be an awesome time. And then tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, we will be back here with the Arvocalists. I think we're going to have a full crew tonight with the Arvocalists playing more of the Banner Saga 3. So it's going to be good times, good streaming day today. And I'm excited about that. And I hope you folks are as well. Tomorrow, by the way, is Wednesday night is going to be, let me just confirm, I believe this is right. Tomorrow night is going to be the day... What are we on to? Day 3 now? Yes, day 3 of Community D&D. So Waterdeep Dragon Heist, your favorite crew, shadow crew that gets things done and isn't at all crazy when they do it, and does funny, silly things. Everything's totally normal and straight ahead. That's happening tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday night. And then Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, we have Chants of Senar. I'm going to really try to push and see if I can get that done Thursday night, because the following Thursday is the premiere of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and I'm very excited about that. Saturday, by the way, is Expedition from the Mysterious Peaks. So we got a bunch of stuff going. Last thing I want to note is just a reminder about this, which is next game. Don't forget to get your votes in on this. I'm going to be playing this next week. We have a choice between 3 games: Sovereign Syndicate, which I thought looked really cool and I was interested in; Kinseed, which I've already forgotten what that is, but I think it looks really cool as well. I can't remember, but it was also neat; and Terranil. Basically, all of these 3 are pretty cool, and I'm happy to play any of them. But get your votes in now, because at the end of the session today, we're going to be closing that down, that vote, and then I will be playing it next week, or going to be playing it next week for the Patreon-fueled chat chosen game of the month, so please make sure to do do that. All right. With all that said, I'm going to unmute myself so that Trend knows we are ready to go. And then I'm going to, this time I don't have to say I'm interrupting him because unless he was talking to himself, which, I mean, that could be happening. And then I'm going to head over to reveal to you. We have our setup. We are here, and Trent is here and ready to go. Trent, it is good to see you. There's no ziggurat. It's very easy, like, to set this up. I'm just like, I capture one video. Look, it's all done. It's finished. He's right there. It's one person. Trent's good to see you, my friend. How are you doing? How's life in the universe? How are you feeling about today's upcoming session? Anything you're thinking about, and who are you playing today?
Well, as I told you in Discord that you may not have noted, you probably did, but you didn't comment on it. I plan to seduce all the ogres.
I did not comment on that. I can't imagine why. I didn't comment on that in the least.
Right. I'm not a bard. I'm not going to seduce the monster. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to what dreams may come. Good film.
Oh God, it was hard to watch though.
Yeah,
it was hard. It was very good, but it was not all that long after my father had passed. It was rough. It was like a rough. Yeah. Oh geez. Mm-hmm. And Robin Williams is amazing. Anyway, on you go.
But yeah, what tales may come from this? I was rewatching the previous session, like half an hour ago, because there's so much data being thrown in prose that I'm just like, I can't process. And of course, none of it was written anywhere, so I'm like, hang on, I have to go back and rewatch this and pick up what I've missed, because I'm trying to do all this. You have it easy; it's all written down where you are. It's like I have to.
Nonsense. This is all coming directly from my brain with no notes at all.
There's no what was the name of the company that made this stuff?
Handiwork Games.
Yeah, them. They had nothing to do with this at all. Anyway, so it's
Yes.
Yes.
So
yes, definitely looking forward to it. There, just trying to remember. Say, okay, so one brother was cunning, but he wasn't strong or brave, and which one was the? Oh, damn it!
And yeah, fear not. I will go over this some of these things
It's not going to matter if I don't see it written.
Oh, fair enough. Well, I can't give you all that. It's like because that would be.
I can tell you, but I can't show you.
Exactly.
That makes no sense.
Listen, you can take notes down.
Tell.
You're capable of typing.
I can't. No. I will write whatever word I hear. So I will wind up writing like every 9th word that you are saying. And none
Ogre,
of it
blah, 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 brother, blah, 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 big club, blah, blah, blah.
It's just like, I am not full duplex. I cannot do intake and output at the same time.
That's funny. You cannot double side the page, as it were,
right.
so to speak. Arv should do an interpretive dance for Tren. I think but he's saying that he would only catch every 9th move that I made. So you'd be like, you did something like this. And then, what we really need is if people watch and they're like, this is amazing, then we need to have someone who's willing to take some notes that they can send along to Tren. Like, hey, Tren, here's some info that you might want to know. Like, this thing happened and this other thing happened. And,
or if you don't want to double up on effort, the guy who already has the shit written down.
I can't do that
because
copy
paste.
But see, I can't do that because if I do that, then there's stuff that I may be giving information to you that is not appropriate for the time that you're receiving.
Then why would you be saying?
Well, but
I'm just asking you to give me a copy of the shit you're saying to me.
Some of the shit I'm saying, jokes aside, is shit that I'm coming up with at the time. It's not like, I mean, I am melding this together. You know what I'm saying? Hey, Effect Life, we need a stenographer. Yes, that's exactly right. There's these things called VODs. Well, see, what Trent is saying, Geister, is that he watched it, but he was only catching every 9th minute.
It.
Oh, okay.
I was watching it. Okay. I was going through and I listened to a sentence and I paused and I turned to this open office text document that I have and I start typing and I turn it back and I push play and then I push pause and I turn and I type it down and I'm just about to continue watching it, and all of a sudden a Zoom link pops up, and that whole plan
went out of the way. Well, actually, what was just noted that Triffid just mentioned, hey, Wispy Song, and also Triffid mentions that there are automatic transcripts that YouTube does make, which are text-driven and which will not go away.
Have you read some of the things?
Yeah, well, okay, they're not ideal.
Saying
they're not ideal,
especially with some of the very colorful language that we use here in Beowulf. It's just the text to speech.
Admittedly, you'll get a lot of a reel, like a fishing reel and stuff like that. Like, I mean, yeah, I grant you that, you know. Like, oh no, Prince Justin, you don't have to do it, even if you weren't at work. That is very kind of you to say, though. But you know, either way, Tren will pick this up very quickly because Tren knows the basics of his character. Which reminds me, I don't think through all of this you've mentioned yet who you're playing. I don't think so.
I haven't. So, no. Yeah. So my character's name is Arilthur. You can see him. He's right over there.
Yes.
You know, on the other side, right below the chat. That's kind of difficult to read.
Yeah, we're gonna fix that chat, by the way, on this overlay. I just actually asked our designer, whose name is Tartunes, to put a dark square in so we can make that easier. Because you're right, that is something I hadn't thought about. Actually, I wonder if let me just double check something quickly. I want to see if hers. Let me see. Oh, see, she did this for hers. So So we need one that was the same for her. Yeah. Okay. So now we know. On you go. Sorry.
But you are not seeing his two followers, his family, his friends, not necessarily in that order, who are an osprey named Peep, a female osprey.
Oh, and I will show that right now. There is the osprey right there,
and a young male wolf named Ile.
Yes, and Ile, this is this part of it is always easier because I have like multiple followers I have to think about with you know, with Tari's host of people for Runesild. But Arilfur has just got a bird and a wolf. So it's real simple.
Nice and simple.
Bird and a dog. And so that is Arilfur, and I am excited to see what happens with this one. And I will mention, by the way, as I fire up a little bit of music, let's see, I had Across the Moors and Windswept Plains. I feel like Across the Moors is always a good one, but I'm going to do some Willow in the Light to start.
You say Across the Moors and Windswept Plains, and that just sounds like the first line of a poem.
It does. Well, and it's funny you mentioned that because that reminds me of the way that we have to start things a certain way, which is this way. Listen! From time to time, a thane of the king who had made many vaunts and was mindful of verses, stored with sagas and songs of old, bound word to word in well-knit rhyme, welded his lay. Of the warlike deeds he had heard in saga of Siegmund. Strange the story, he said it all. The whale sings wanderings wide, his struggles, which never were told to tribes of men, the feuds and the frauds, save to Fitela only, which of these doings he deigned to speak, uncle to nephew, as ever the twain stood side by side in stress of war, and multitude of the monster kind they had felled with their swords. It is a great pleasure to welcome you all to this session of the Three Ogre Brothers. In our last session, Arilfur had heard information about a kingdom which had been taken control of violently by three monstrous creatures. They had seized it from the human kings and had taken it from them, and the people, according to the song that had been heard, had been suffering. And so with some reluctance, Arilfur was like, well, this has to be done, and gathered up his two followers and his crew on his ship, which was, the Strong Tree, and with the captain, Karaeltor, set off across the sea. The travel across the sea wasn't as difficult, although there was a moment where Ile ended up eating a kind of poisoned fish or something like that that had to be tended to. And that was a troubling moment, but they did manage to come through it okay. Ile, again, is young, so will sometimes eat things that perhaps he might not, would not be the wisest thing to do. That's going to happen. But did eventually make it to this strange area which had essentially what looked like kind of a church, an old church, and met there three people within the church. The three people were Bartas, Bernardus, and Cadaris. These three were people that told him of the story of these three ogres that had taken over from the kings. One of them, Cadaris, sort of avoided the other two, was a little bit more based on cunning and sort of stealth and intelligence, as opposed to the more my strong right arm and my brave sword and shield and all that kind of stuff that we got from the other two. But they told the story of an ogre king who had three sons and a dwarf whose name was Nori the Clever, who was a great smith of magical weapons and had made a club for Magan the oldest, an axe for Bald, who was the middle child, and a sword for Bregda the youngest, and told each of them that while their weapon was in their care, no other blade should bite upon you other than those of your brothers. And thus, Nori told the king, they must fight each other, for otherwise they would each be in danger. It is interesting, however, that ultimately it was the cunning brother, the youngest, Bregda, who thought it was unwise to fight because one of them could likely defeat the others. So instead, they just split the kingdom. They seized it from the humans, and they took three different parts: the coastal fens for Bregda, the rolling middle lands for Magan, and the high mountains for Bald, and each claimed a portion of their father's servants to do with as their cruel hearts desired. And so that knowledge was given to Arilfur. He spoke to them a little bit, and then was told when he went back down to the ship the next day. He went back down to the ship, and in the morning the next day had several people who came to him to explain that something had happened. And when he went back up to the church, he found that the church was now a ruin, and the three men that he had met last night were gone. Apparently they had spoken to ghosts, which, as Arilfur made clear, yeah, that's fine. They were helpful ghosts. I don't understand what the big problem is. But his crew was a little, I would think it's fair to say, unnerved. But nonetheless, they set out again and arrived ultimately at the marshlands. And I believe I had a link. Let me see if I can find where I put that. I have to go through all the ones that are actually Taris that we did last time. I may not have done that because we switched it a bunch of times. Okay, so let me see if I have this in here. Oh, that's why, because I put it on Roll20. That's why. So it is this that is the delightful thing that you see, which are these fens, in the midst of which is nestled Bregda's land. So as Arilfur lands basically on the shore, I do want to show a new map that I put together last night, which should show a little bit of the basics of where the three kingdoms are, roughly speaking. So, you are right now, Arilfur, down here. You're basically at the base where this ship has just landed. So you have the marshland. This is apparently Bregda's land over here. Magan, this is the middle land and sort of the hills that you can see right over here. And then right up here, you've got your boy Bald, like Night on Bald Mountain type of Bald, right? You got this over here, who is the eldest brother. It is up to you in terms of how you want to handle this, but as we've mentioned, Bregda is known to be probably, in quotes, the weakest, but the most cunning. Magan less so, and then Bald is clearly the strongest of all three of them. But Magan also is not to be underestimated, because Magan has had to basically navigate between the smartest and the strongest for a long time, and so in some ways is able to handle both. And the last thing I'll mention is you can, of course, address this however you wish to. You did get the impression that these ogre brothers were not exactly misunderstood. Like, it wasn't a matter of like, well, they're like, you could make an argument maybe that with Runesild's monster, there could be something like this. It seems like these folks know what they're doing, and at least according to the people living under them, they are chafing under the rule of these ogres. But that is something, obviously, which you must decide. So, as your crew has landed here, you can decide what you want to do as I go forward. I will mention that there is literally nobody at all when you land on the shore to greet you. There is not a shore guard. There's no obvious like guard hut or anyone watching you that you can see from a distance. You are just there on your own, so you can take that for what it is, either leaving the crew, taking your followers and going in. It's up to you as to how you want to handle it. What would you like to do?
Yeah, I think Elay, I do this every time. I immediately jump to playing the wolf rather than playing the human.
Can't imagine why that happens.
Why would that be the case?
Exactly.
Furry.
Listen, if we ever play Humblewood, Tren, you're first in line. That's all.
I've got it.
I know you. I know. I'm aware. Even if I didn't know that already, it would be obvious.
And since you didn't mention it, I'm gonna, because you folks in chat were talking about iambic pentameter. Let me grab something. I will be right back.
Okay.
Just stepping out of the frame for just a moment. If you like a week or two ago, I got an email saying that this thing was coming from this person, and I'm like, who is that? I have no idea who this is and why they're shipping me something. And it turns out that at some point in the dim times before there was an internet, or sometime between then and now, I backed the music of the Western Deep on.
Ooh, that's cool.
On the thing, yeah. And the hardback book is all of the music that they had in the game animation show.
Yeah,
whatever.
I'm only vaguely familiar with the name, but like,
yeah, but
that's cool.
It was really. As soon as it got here, I was like, "Oh, right!
I did that.
Right, I backed this." Anyway, so somehow Humblewood reminds me of that.
Okay.
Just because of similar sorts of stuff. Anyway, so what Arilfer is going to do is he is going to take Peep and Elay and head inland and go and find some of the people who are apparently desperately in need of moisturizing because they are chafing. They are chafing
repeatedly against this. Before you leave, Karailtor asks, do you have any orders while we're gone? We'll guard the ship, but should we push off if we see trouble? Stay, fight? What do you want us to do?
And again, speaking with humans isn't something he does very often. So he's clearly trying to work out the sentence in his head. And until I know what is enemy, stay away.
And he nods and he says, all right, we'll stay offshore, but close enough that we can see you. At least if you come this far. And he sort of, and you can see the rest of the crew is kind of like, yep, like they hop right to it. They're like, sounds good. Let's do like,
we're gone.
Yeah. But they will, of course, they are loyal to you, and they will stay loyal to you. So you begin to make your way in, Arilfer. As you can tell, so first of all, these are deeper swamps down here. I think actually we can probably switch back to the more atmospheric image here. So these are these kind of deep swamps. You can see the hills in the distance. It's quite gray. There is a fairly prominent scent that you can feel, like sulfurous scent kind of drifting up. Although I do want to note that because it's cooler, that scent is mitigated, thankfully. You would not want to be here. This is like a southern swamp. That would be a whole other problem, but that's not what this is. And in fact, as you are heading forward, you come across groups of workers that are cutting up strips of peat from the ground and that are laying them on wagons, presumably so they can be air dried for later use. And as you can see them doing this, and as you're doing so, eventually one of the workers sort of looks up as you're passing, and kind of sees you. And this is a well-muscled, severe-looking woman, maybe in her mid-20s, you would guess, Rilfer, and begins to approach you. And she carries in her hand, she carries a knife. It is a bog knife. It's the thing that she actually uses to cut up the peat. And she comes up to you, and she sort of looks you over. And I think I have a picture of her. Let me see if I do. Bear with me 1 second. I'd go here. Okay. Yes, digital tokens. They're
For
right
those
there.
of you at home who are looking at the image between me and me over there, you're only seeing about a third of what that image actually is.
Yeah, if I zoom it out, I try to zoom it out even further, you get a little bit more of the sort of.
I mean, it's more of the same. It's just
yeah. It's, I was gonna say, it's not like you're right. There's not a bunch of stuff left or right, but yeah, it's very much that's the way it is. Remember I mentioned the ninja thing before, Trend? There we go. Ninja cat Ganesh has arrived. Hi, Ganesh. Okay. Right. Okay. Just 1 second. I have right here. Nope, not that one. Not that one. That one. Oh God, there's so many tokens. Oh, there we go.
For those of you watching at home,
I got it. Found it. Okay. Yes. So you find this.
Uploading.
Okay, there we go.
Oh,
now
there
you should be able to see it. So, and I'll put that over so chat can see it. There we go.
She's you.
Yes, this is not, to be clear, not to scale. She does not actually dominate this guy. So she comes over to you. She's wearing these mud-stained linens, and you can see she's slightly hunched a Realfer, but it reminds you quite a bit of yourself in that if you want to stand tall, you can, right? And she seems to have a similar sort of frame in that regard. And she comes over and she says, "Welcome, stranger. It's unusual to see those carrying weapons in our land. I wondered what you were about." And you can see the other workers behind her, by the way, have like redoubled their efforts to like shovel and stuff like this. Like, there's not a whole big welcoming committee.
So he kind of makes no, secret of looking her up and down and sizing her up and down, apparently. And once he's done so, he just kind of, Arilfer.
And she nods and she says, "My name is Sfera. We work in this land, and I see you have others." And her eyes kind of light up as she sees Ela. I assume you don't have Ela like randomly way off the path, right? Like I assume Ela is
right next to me.
Yeah, so she kind of, her eyes light up and she says, "Oh, is he's friendly to strangers or no?"
With help.
Oh, and she hears that and she sort of looks at you and then is kind of like you could tell very much without even doing an insight check. She's like, she would love to like go.
I really want to pet the dog. Can I
pet the dog? Yeah.
I know exactly how she feels. And so he kind of kneels down and he kind of holds his hand out to her.
Okay. And she comes over sort of hesitantly. She still keeps her bog knife, but she keeps it like her hand behind her. So reaches out.
And he like lays her hand in his and brings it over to Ile and is like, "Sfera, Ile."
And she has this big wide expression. She says, "Oh," and she just sort of like, very calmly allows this sort of thing. But I should say calmly, but you can see she's like super excited that this is all happening, right? And she's like, "Oh, thank you. It's wonderful. don't. And she kind of like starts like tapping her linens in the universal sign for, I wish I had something to feed him. But I mean, she has Pete to feed. And she says, there's nothing here. Perhaps, well, I don't know what the Lord will say to you, but of our land. But you may be able to find some rabbits. There are some that I have seen, and perhaps I have seen some. And she kind of scrunches up her thinking about it. Like, there was a fox I have seen some, but I have nothing to give you for food. I'm sorry. And she sort of she's kind of like still is kneeling and then stands up slowly and she says, "Why have you come here?"
Your Lord.
Because your face immediately is like, yeah.
Is Etten.
And she sort of nods slowly. And you see her eyes kind of like move left and right as if she's like.
And is wicked to you and all.
And she nods and she says, we cannot speak of it. And she kind of like looks away. She seems both like intrigued but also frightened. Arilfer.
I have heard Scorp sing of it.
I would like you to make a persuasion check for me, but I'm going to give you advantage because of the interaction with Ile.
Persuasion.
She likes your wolf.
Hey, so do I. Even though he's a wee baby. Oh my God!
Wow.
That is beautiful!
For those of you at home, those are 2 natural ones.
Oh my God, that's
damn.
Great.
She's like, so she says, he cannot speak of it. You will come to the house soon. And she kind of, and now as you look behind Arilfer, you can see that some of the other workers are like staring, not at you, they're staring at her. And she kind of like, and then she like turns and like sort of hurries off, although she occasionally looks back over her shoulder at you and maybe at Ile, but she seems spooked. Yes, exactly. There's an adder in the ground.
That's very dangerous. Does it look like she's leading me towards the house?
No, it looks like she's going back to work.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And so Arilfer will just, kind of watch her go for a moment. Sort of nod and turn and look all around him at everybody who was looking at her. And just kind of, just for a moment, catch as many individual gazes as he can and just kind of hold it to just have kind of a see me, recognize that I am here, kind of,
right.
Communicating his presence and his, that he has an intent, though maybe not necessarily what that intent is.
Okay.
And can he see the house from
where? He cannot, although the sort of path that leads forward, like there is sort of a kind of rough road that kind of gradually snakes up from where you left from the shore up. And it took about maybe a half hour to 45 minutes to get to this Pete, workers here. And now there's more groups of them that you see on either side of the path. Presumably if you were to keep coming up, you might find more of those as you came through. So, as you kind of make your way up, probably another 45 minutes or so passes. And then you can see kind of rising from this little, really like a little hillock, I would say, to the west, is what looks like a large, like, house, not really not a castle, but like a hall of some kind, where you would expect perhaps someone like this might stay. But before you get to that, I mentioned all the different peat farmers. There is also, to the left-hand side of the path, you see there is another set of what look basically like thick ropes that are tied between the trees, from tree to tree. It looks like kind of like a makeshift fence. And as you're walking along next to it, you hear the snorting and rooting of a lot of clearly animals in that direction. You don't see anything quite yet, but it's not really hilly very much down here. If you go over just a little bit of a slight rise, you might be able to see whatever it is. And it seems to be coming from beyond this rope, makeshift fence thing that you see.
He'll head over there.
Okay. So when you get there, you can see, indeed, this mass of dark gray, bristle-skinned pigs. And there are many, many, many of them, probably 100 at least, that you can see here that are sort of rooting, and they are all like, and the smell here, fairly significant, and not just
familiar with it.
Sulfur.
Yeah.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. So you can see that they are going to town on this ground area here. And there is a man who is standing next to the fence. He is dressed in workers' clothing, but the odd thing is that he seems to be watching over the pigs, but he's awfully clean for, being someone who's supposed to be herding pigs from place to place, if that is indeed what he is doing. I will show you what he looks like. He will probably appear much larger. Items in the rearview mirror may appear. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here he is. Yeah.
Elay whiskey. Very good. Very good.
It's not too bad. Don't get us bogged. Did you hear about the moorland farmer got him making whiskey? It piqued his interest. Outstanding. That's very, very good. I love it. I hope you don't get swamped with these puns, though, because
oh no, here we go.
Refill
my water.
Good time. Okay. So this is the one that you see standing there, and you can see that he is mostly bald. He does have like wispy, gray hair kind of around the back of his head and over his ears and so on. And he has these sort of keen blue eyes. And he says, "Oh, stranger, I see you've come to look at the pigs. There's not much to see, I'm afraid."
Arilfer.
Ah, Hidolf. I suppose you're here not rooting for mud with the pigs. Maybe you're here to see if there's any treasure. I'm afraid you won't find any. There's not much in this land unless you like pig shit. And he shakes his head. And the pigs... I clearly need to find my pig soundscape. I don't know.
You're doing fine.
Yeah.
You want a real challenge? Voice a gigantic crystal dragon. Okay, now
no one would actually do that and choose to in their own free will.
Especially not after voicing a bunch of giant salamanders.
I told you how to solve this problem. Just start sucking at your job, and you won't be asked to do those things. Suck more, and you'll get asked to do things like that.
Okay.
I'm not saying
you all heard him. Clip it.
Yeah,
heard him.
Except that's the problem. You like this too much. That's the problem. If you didn't like doing it, it would be another matter.
I'm a good actor. I can make it seem like I don't enjoy it anymore. Okay, so
he's standing by.
Yeah, so Arilfer sort of squats down, like grabs hold of one of the ropes, sort of squats down to look between them, and then he begins. What did you say this guy's name was?
Hidolf. Hidulf.
Right. So Hidolf hears Arilfer saying something, but he can't understand what it is. But he's talking to the pigs.
Right, and the pigs are like, bumping into you, kind of bumping into you. And Hidolf says, well, you may not hear all this, but Hidolf says something like, what are you expecting them to tell you? And like, you probably don't hear that. And he says something like, well, I don't think, be careful with those pigs now.
And so Arilfur's like, do they treat you well?
And the pigs like, they certainly, just from a quick, they do not give you a response that you might necessarily understand, Arilfur, but it certainly
he does speak the language of beasts. He can talk to them.
That's true. So probably what they would give you is, because pigs are fairly intelligent actually, so they probably would say, oh geez, how do I? So they would say, he says something to the effect of, tubers in ground, lots of food. He's all right. He talks big. Don't worry about him. He's fine. What are you saying to them down there?
I was asking them how they are. No, wait a minute. That's the beast language.
He's like,
switch languages back. Yeah, exactly. I ask how they are treated.
And Hidolf says, they're treated fine. They need to be. Otherwise, they wouldn't be suitable enough for his lord and master. That's all. I'd take care of them. You didn't worry about them.
And he kind of looks down at the pig that he was talking to and has kind of a soft smile on his face, and he turns his gaze to the man, and the smile doesn't fade completely, but it fades enough for the serious undertone to kind of come to the surface. And he's, I worry of all animals.
I see. Well, you won't be happy that these ones are ended up for his table. And he won't gainsay it or say no. Not much we can do about it. We just have to work. That's our lot.
True. He doesn't seem bothered by the fact that,
right.
They're going to get eaten. Something eats everything. Yep. That's just how it is.
Yep. And he says, you planning to talk with him? Or challenge him?
And he looks down at the pig. No.
Well, what are you going to do? Just talk to pigs?
Why would I challenge a pig?
No, not the pig. The lord in the castle over there, in his house, in his hall.
I would speak with him.
Oh, he'll probably be happy to speak with you. He likes doing that.
Do I need someone to take me?
No. He lets people in. They'll probably make you give up your spear at the door, though. And I don't know whether they'll allow those animals in there. They don't serve their kind in there. They'll have to wait outside. No, he didn't say that. He says, I don't know whether they'll let the animals in. Maybe. But they won't let you have your weapon. Not that you could do anything anyway. He's an ogre. That's our lot.
If he were man, would you fight him?
I don't fight. I serve. And he pats his stomach. He's a little portly. And he says, it's what keeps me alive and well fed. That's our lot.
And he says something to the pig, which is basically, goodbye, root deep.
Right.
kind of thing. And then he just kind of, the three of them move on.
Okay. And so as you head out, he says, "All right. Well, good luck to you. Be safe. Make sure you don't get too far into the fens. You want to avoid the witch out there. She's dangerous. We avoid her. That's our lot."
Witch?
And he's already turned away and back to his pigs. Now you could go back to him and be like, "Witch," if you want. But he sort of said it almost like a, "Hey, watch out for the weather" type of thing.
No, he'll keep going.
Okay.
He'll talk to the ogre about the witch if he has to.
Okay. So
how do you know she's a witch?
Exactly. Like what exactly is is this situation? What is this like? So, okay. So, as you come closer to this, I believe I have you were instantly killed. No.
Roll credits.
You do not instantly die.
Of course not. You spend days bleeding out. Duh.
Yeah, you don't instantly die. Right. We'll role play the entire thing. So it all began when
it's like Paul Rubens at the end of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So I'm gonna put this one up on. Let's see. Crop that. Save that as the fort. Oh, no. I forgot that I already planned that weeks ago. I don't need to do any such thing. I already have it. I got all the info I need. All right, so I'm going to put this up, I think, on the stream. So I will put this image up.
People will need to see it.
Right, I'm doing that mostly for your benefit so that you know.
Oh, I see.
Okay. So this thing looks like... get to the thing. One more. Okay. There it is. Looks like that. Whoa! No, not that. Too large. Also, that's not what I thought it was. All right, maybe I'm wrong. Okay, so I was incorrect. I did do something, but it was a map. It was not what I actually needed. Let me give you the exterior, which is what I was trying to show you. Okay. Regis Fort. Exterior. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. All right, there we go. So now I should be able to do that. Let's try that again. So this is Bragg. Does fort. Exterior. And, okay. Now this is the right one. Much better. Okay, so, and you should be able to see this now on the stream, Trend. So what you see basically is there is a fairly decent-sized marsh lake. And there is what looks to be basically this, you can see it's like an artificial island that has been built up on these stilts or pillars, out of the lake. And you can see there's a wide causeway that's kind of leading to the island, and the great doors of this round house with the straw roof that you can see there. The island sits in the center of that small lake, and you can tell that it was made by hand because there are great pilings of stone and tree trunks that are sinking into the water, and there's a low mist which is collecting around its base. The doors on the front are obviously new, and they're adapted into this sort of smaller frame, which basically means that if you had to guess, this was the old human king's hall, which has been adapted, sort of modified for the takeover, if you had to guess. So as you kind of see that as you're arriving, I'd also like you to make a perception check for me, please.
Okay. Best thing is perception. I do much better at these. 13.
Okay. There's something weird about the water, Arilfer. The water is, of course, it's you would expect it to be salty and marshy and so on, and kind of turgid. But there's something odd about it, some rippling that troubles you about the water. although you can't necessarily put your finger on what. Other than that, you can see the bridge to this island is open, and there are a group of people, basically you would say maybe a dozen or more, who are standing outside near or in front of or around the door. And they all carry like swords or spears or something, so they look kind of like guards, but they're all lazing about, really. Like they're sort of leaning back. They seem utterly unconcerned. One of them actually sees you and kind of is like, "Rah," and then they all sort of, you hear this loud, raucous laughter coming from them from across the water. They don't seem particularly concerned by your presence.
He's on a mission, so he's just heading for the house.
Okay. When you cross over the bridge, you see the water rippling again, and right crossing underneath the bridge in the water, you see this long, dark shape. It doesn't surface, but you can definitely see it below the water, and it's pretty big. And as you cross over, so the ones that are there, sort of like look at you, and these are what you would describe as men with an ill-favored look, might be a way to describe it. Sort of scruffy beards, and kind of dirty faces. Yeah, they're wearing a baseball cap, and there's a wolf on. No, wait a minute. They're like, look, it's another one of those voice actors. No, they don't say any of those things. But they all sort of look at you, and one of them sort of like just watches you, and they all have these uncomfortable and sort of not pleasant looking smirks on their face as you approach. The door is closed technically. There are two people, two of these whoever they are in front of it. And they're sort of like, their hands are on the hilts of their swords, sort of sort of just lying there for one of other place to place them. Mm-hmm. And when you come up, they say, "What's your business?"
Speak to Lord.
Speak to Lord. I see we've got one of those. Speak to Lord. What are you going to do when you speak to Lord? You're going to speak more than 3 words? And a couple of the others like,
And he seems completely unfazed by it, and he just says, "Learn."
This is a man of few words, if any. And he kind of sort of lifts himself up off the door, and he says, what's your name so I can announce your presence?
Arilfer, Peep, Ely.
And they look at the bird. They look at the. Do we say he was? What do we say Peep was? An osprey? What do we?
Osprey.
Yeah, osprey. They look at the osprey and they look at the wolf, and he's got a menagerie with him. Peep and Ely. And the others sort of grin, and he spits into the water, and he says, "Well, Arilfer, Peep, and Ely, if you want to see our Lord, you'll have to make it worth our while to open the doors. You see, they've just been installed, and they don't open very easily. We need to help them along, so if you wouldn't mind, a few extra coins would make it very easy for us to do this." And he holds out his hand, and the others are sort of like watching you, sizing you up.
And he just looks back and forth, looks at the hand. No. And turns and walks off.
Okay, back down the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So he walks off, and they all sort of wait, and then he says, "All right, come back when you've learned a few more words." And they all practically high five each other.
And he stops, looks back over his shoulder, and is clearly piecing together a sentence.
Right.
"I will make sure your Lord knows you did not help.
And they all sort of chuckle and smile. Okay. All right. So when you're back off the bridge, what then?
He's gonna walk back to the main road, I guess.
Okay.
That
Yeah, the main.
continues up.
Yes. Let me pull up the map again. So. Yeah. Oh, and I will remove Bregda's fort for a moment. Okay, so yeah, so that means you are right about here. If your general knowledge is correct, if you headed up north, you'd probably end up here. Now, it did take you about an hour and a half from the shore to get here, maybe an hour and 15 minutes. So if you had to guess, it would be another hour and a half or so to get up to this place where you're heading towards Magan and, you know, the middle brother, if that's what you wanted to do. But the time frame, I think you arrived here. I want to say you arrived in the morning because you had left like at least like 10 or 11. So right now, let's say it's about early afternoon. So not much of a sun overhead, but it's still fairly bright light. You think you could reach the next place before darkness if you wanted to go that way, or you could bypass it altogether, or whatever you want to do.
So it looks like there's a branch off to the left.
There is. You don't know what that is yet, but that is the case. Yes.
He, you know, kind of looks to Ile and Peep and just tells them, "Why don't you two go find dinner?"
And they, Peep kind of, you know, tilts their head and then like zips off.
Off she goes.
And Ile sort of you know, nuzzles you and then charges for the moat and leaps into the water because that's where the
I saw a big fish in there. No, you did not.
A very, very big. Okay, so Ile heads off. What are you doing?
He's going to turn down that left side road. People will be able to spot him from miles away, so he's not worried about losing them.
Okay. All right. So, as you are, as you're heading up, you find as you're sort of climbing out of the swampland, you are rising into this series of rolling hills. Here, the sulfurous smell has dissipated. There's a little bit more wind, I want to say, but there are these plowed fields and great plains. And as you are sort of coming up, as you're kind of making your way up there, you find yourself seeing more and more horses. No pigs up here, but lots of horses. Some of them running free from everything you can tell, and some of them in these very large, I don't even know if paddock would count. I mean, like it's a huge field with a big fence and tons of grass and all that stuff, kind of running around. And these horses look to be both very strong and swift. And apparently well taken care of. And you know enough about animals, Arilfer, to know that these do not look like a recent import. Like if you had to guess, these look like there are bloodlines that have been going back a while in this land, in the raising of horses. And so as you make your way up and sort of closer, when you come to that spot where you could head off to the left down the pathway, you might be able to see that right to the right of that sort of intersection is these two buildings, kind of a barn almost, many horses running around one of the buildings as well. And you can see that there are these low walls of dry-fitted loose stone. And in one little section of that stone, you can see a few sheep grazing. It's the first time you've seen something other than horses up here. And there are two boys that are sitting there, kind of, both of them look to be, one of them might be maybe 13, 14. The other one is definitely younger, maybe 9 or 10. And you can see that they are both sort of sitting on the wall, kind of looking at the sheep. And then as they see you, they both stand up, and the older boy stands in front of the younger one, like positions him behind him. And sort of watches you warily as you come close to the intersection. You could completely ignore them if you wanted, but the boy seems intrigued, or at least wary of you.
He pauses to wave, and
he kind of slowly raises his hand, like
he looks toward the left side road and back over at the boys.
So he, the boy kind of looks in that direction, and he shrugs, and he says, he kind of like waves his hand like, I don't know what's over there, type of thing. And the younger boy, now you can see, is like
looking around. Yep. His brother, yeah,
and looks like fascinated in you. The older boy looks wary. The younger boy looks like, ooh.
So, Arilfor will kind of try to figure out how he would signify this. But he kind of indicates them and himself, and he says, "May I speak?"
And the older boy says, "Yes, you may speak."
And he very slowly
he's drawing himself as tall as his 13 years will allow him. Like,
I mean,
they can be tall, but I'm saying, like, my point is,
I know. I'm just saying he. I mean, Arilfor is kind of stooped the way he normally
that's true.
is.
That's true.
But so they're a little closer in height. But he walks over slowly in a very non-threatening kind of way, and he stops probably about 10 feet away or so. So he's not too close to them. So
the young boy is now like trying to see you,
and he sort of like catches his eye for a moment and kind of smiles with this sort of yep, I know what that's like, kind of thing. And he looks at the older brother and says, "Do you know which
Sorry, was that for me?
Yeah.
Do you know which? I honestly thought you were
I was waiting for it.
What? I'm like, okay. Do you know which?
As I said it, and I realized there was more in which than I wanted originally. And I was like, wait, he doesn't know what you said.
Which ogre? Okay. Do you know which? So you say that and no. Which? No.
Which from the fence.
Oh. We don't go down there. That's for those people. We don't go down there. It's dangerous. We stay here.
Someone spoke of a witch on the moors, the fens.
And the younger boy says, he must mean the outrider. The outrider. And the older brother says, Shh, Car. He doesn't mean the outrider. He said a witch.
Witch cat.
Yeah, exactly. He said witch, and then the cat leaped down. He said a witch, and younger brother says, yeah, but he's got magic. He's kind of a witch. And the older brother's like, shh. And the younger brother,
can you speak of outrider?
Oh, are you him? The younger brother says, are you the outrider?
No.
That's do you so you don't know him?
Not yet.
Oh, he's So he's now the older brother's like, shh, Carp, shh, and he's like, no, it's fine. What, I could talk about it. It doesn't matter. He's not gonna. He's like, he's a legend. He rides, he says he rides on his horse, and his horse is like 10 feet tall, and he's like 12 feet tall, and he's huge, and he hides from the king so that when he can, he's going to bring justice to the land. And the older brother says, shh. And he literally turns around to Carr, who you've now heard the name, and says, shh, Carr, you don't know who's listening. And the younger brother sort of sullenly says, he is, though. Someday he's going to help us. Everyone says it. And the older brother kind of turns back to you and says, sorry, sir, he talks out of turn sometimes, but he doesn't mean any harm. And you can see he's like, kind of actually make an insight check for me, Arilfer, because something is clearly up with this kid.
Well, this should be fun.
Critical multiple ones.
For those of you who were not watching last time, I rolled a lot of ones.
You really did.
And now I've got double natural ones on this. So let's see where this goes.
Wow.
Okay, 23 and a 25.
Like, so. I too was this boy. No. You can see that this boy is exceptionally nervous, and if you had to guess, you can tell by the way the boy is like holding his younger brother near him that he's very frightened for his brother. You don't get any impression that he's like hiding things from you about like because he's malicious. He's really freaked out about his brother, and the impression of it, Arilfer, you don't have enough exposure to this sort of thing to know, but it strikes you that this is the kind of thing like a father would do or something. Like, it's one thing to be protective, but this seems like a father protecting a son, not an older brother protecting a younger, even though it obviously is that.
And so kind of slightly clocking some of this, he nods and turns. Which is closer, the sheep or the horses?
I would say the sheep.
Okay.
The horses, I mean, I guess if you wait long enough, a horse will be, because the horse will like wanders around, but the sheep is like right near you right now.
Okay. So Ariel sort of smiles and it's like, just a second, and turns, and he goes over and he, turns to the sheep and is like, how do they treat you here?
And the sheep are not as intelligent as pigs. But
no, they're not.
So the sheep
Anybody
comes
who's
like,
watched Babe knows this.
I am so tempted to respond with, bad,
oh,
bad.
And then Eli comes running and, whoa, yes, well.
You pull the wool over my eyes. No, they don't say any of that. They sort of look at you kind of stupidly, and then one of them is like, food, fine,
Are you happy?
Food, fine. Food, fine. Like, he seems to have like grasped something. He's going to hold that thought to the deck.
Mm-hmm. And so he stands up and like looks out to any one of the horses that happens to be passing nearby.
Yeah, they all just start galloping around you. Now, they are not stop. I mean, I guess you could yell at them, but they're not stopping.
That's what he's doing. He's calling out to one of them.
Okay.
Basically saying, which of you will speak with me?
And they're like, and one comes back the other way. And so the boys both kind of like, and you can see the one boy, the older boy, gathers his younger brother and takes a step back as one of the horses comes right up to you, and kind of, slows to a stop. This is a beautiful dark mane and sort of dark skin, and kind of like looks down at you, and then and kind of looks like, it's a sizable horse, so it's like you're looking up at it a little bit. What is a stranger?
I am here to learn, and I would learn of the Ettins, of the witch, the outrider, if these boys treat you animals well.
And they look at all of them, and the boys like eyes as wide as saucers, because the horses, like, all they hear you is being like, right? But they can see that the horse is kind of nodding and like, and the horse says, boys are fine. Father took care of us, is dead. Older boy tries now, but has too many, cannot manage all of them. Helps his mother. And then sort of like pads around you a bit, and then sort of says, we're other kings. Now, large ones come, take over. They are not kind to us or them. And then sort of, pads along again, and then says, the outrider. You mean man and horse. Yes, sometimes he rides on this horse. I have not spoken to him. Horse is very fast, strong, but stays to themselves. The rider has a shield and an axe.
You know which way he lives.
And the horse sort of turns around and kind of like sort of moves his head in the super helpful direction of this. Like, you get the impression it's like somewhere, like go forth. It's a WoW quest, right? Like, you'll find them somewhere in the zone. So, yeah. And and you could also tell, by the way, Arilfra, that although these things could probably do with a bit of like, their hoofs look a little rough and all that, they do, however, look well fed and like strong. Like they do not look like they have been abused or anything like that. They may not have had their coats done.
A little
quite
TLC
perfectly.
would be good, but they're not mistreated.
Right.
All right. So Arilfra will thank the horse, ask him his name or her name.
He says he says Equus. No, he does not say that. He says something which sounds more or less like, you can't tell if it's like rider or strider or something like that. It doesn't quite translate, but it's something like a horse that takes long strides, if you had to guess.
So he will give him a little scratch on the withers right between the front legs. It's really for horses.
Exactly.
And then a long stroke down the neck and a pat, and he turns around back to the boys.
And now both boys are doing this. The older boy a little bit. The younger boy is like, did you talk to him? Can you talk to animals? Can you talk to any animal? And the older boy's like, he was just making noises. He's like, no, I saw, like, he was nodding at him. That was Strider was nodding at him. Maybe, do you talk to animal? And he like goes back to do you talk to animals?
Many.
Oh, he talks to animals. He could talk to anyone. Could you talk to, we have a cat somewhere. Could you talk to our cat? Could you talk to, so he's like, starts like rattling off animals. What about the sheep? Can you talk to the sheep? Could you talk to pigs? Could you talk to, and he just like starts rattling off this name. And the older brother is like desperately attempting to get him to shut up without like hurting him. He's not doing so successfully.
Get the staple gun. It's just, be quiet.
One duct tape.
Right, exactly. And he just kind of chuckles and nods to a couple of things. He says, your father is gone, and you try to help mother as can.
And the younger boy for the first time just like stops. He doesn't say anything. And the older boy, it's fine. People die sometimes. He doesn't make eye contact with you.
You try hard to help.
I have to. Mama doesn't have anyone else.
You you are a good son.
You can see him kind of moving back and forth uncomfortably. Carr sort of like quietly looks up at his older brother. And he says, maybe we should, Goodlaug, maybe we should take him to mother. And Goodlaug, the older brother, says, I don't know. Mama said not to talk to strangers much. But this is different. He talks to animals. I know that. And Goodlaug doesn't say anything. He just kind of looks back at you. He doesn't say no, exactly.
If you want, I will wait here while you speak to mother.
And so Goodlaug kind of looks and says, all right, we'll go ask her. And he takes Carr, because Carr is like still looking up at you, and then like whoop, because Goodlaug takes him to like, come with me, like I'm not leaving you. Yeah, I'm not leaving you here. And they go back to the house, and after probably not long, a minute maybe, they come back out, and they are accompanied by a woman wearing a simple dress. I have a
I doubt she'd be in a ball.
Yeah, a very simple dress. There we go. Okay, she looks like. Okay, not to scale. Whoops, hold on a second. Resize this. There we go. So, this woman looks, from what you can tell, this dress has been repaired many times. This is a work dress for sure. And you can see that her face is etched with worry. And she has this kind of furrowed like expression as she comes up, but she is very solidly built. You can tell that this is not someone who sits around, and this is a person with a lot of manual labor that they have done. And she comes up behind her sons, and she says, my sons say that you wish to speak to me. My name is Vandrin. What is yours?
Arilfer. And he starts to point to his shoulder, and then remembers that Peep is not there, and it's like, Arilfer.
And she nods, and she says, Arilfer. Well, what do you need from us, Arilfer?
I have come to help with the Etten cruelty.
Now, when you say that, sure, like she visibly draws back a bit. And this time she's got, her sons next to her. So she takes the classic, every parent does this, put the arm around the child thing slightly. And she says, we don't know anything about our lords. That's not our business. You can see her lip quivering.
Many that I have spoken to have said that. But the song I heard tells me that you are all hurt by them.
And she kind of like, her mouth opens a little bit. And both, this time you have the odd experience of seeing both sons kind of looking up now at their mother. But in particular, Carr looks up, and Carr says, yeah, Mama, it's true. Tell him. And she says, hush, child. And unlike when his brother told him to do this, when she says, hush, child, like dead stop. You just think, yeah, just nothing. But it's not, there's no cruelty in it. You can tell that it's not anger, but she just, like, when she says something, you listen. I would like you to make a persuasion check. And by the way, the reason for the chat's benefit, one of the reasons I'm doing these persuasion checks is it's clear to a realtor without having to do a check that these people are frightened. This is trying to get them to speak beyond their fear. So that's why we're doing this. It's not to cruelly make a realtor do
17.
persuasions. She says, well, there is an evil ogre that rules these lands, and you and your people, if you have any, should return to your ship and leave before you find yourselves the subject of his cruelty, because he will be cruel to you. That will happen.
I have come to try and stop it.
But you cannot. They cannot be stopped. They are strong, and they will harm. And now, actually, I'd like to make an insight check here, please.
I was going to say, as she's getting more and more vehement, given how everybody else thus far has been like looking around, as she's starting to do that, he's probably going to be like,
yeah. Well, I'm actually having you do the check a second before she would probably catch herself, but regardless, yes.
Yeah.
No question.
Okay. Insight 9.
Yeah.
Wait. Okay. Yeah.
It would be 9. Yeah. No. She.
Well, unless you had it at advantage, then it would be 13.
No, not an advantage. So she says, if you, and then she said, and she kind of looks around, and then she kind of, again gathers her sons close to her, and she's like, he cannot be stopped. He cannot be defeated. Some have tried. You are brave, but he will kill you, and he will kill anyone else who challenges him. And even if you could kill him, his brothers, you must not. You should leave this place, leave this land. There is nothing for you here, and leave us to our troubles.
I may not have to kill him if I can teach him, heal him. And it has this confused look, like that's not the right word, but he can't think of a better one at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I come to help.
And she kind of like narrows her eyes and looks at you, and she says, he cannot be taught. All he knows is cruelty and vengeance. He is and her mouth kind of works, and you are sacrificing yourself for no reason.
Not for no reason.
And she kind of looks down at her sons, who are, transfixed, staring up at her. And she says, if you need a place to stay, you can stay with us. Otherwise, please move on. And she kind of turns, and like the two sons head off behind her. Although, as they do so, Carr keeps looking over his shoulder at you.
What I imagine is that when they came out, when they came out after getting their mom, that the three of them come out, and Carr is carrying the cat.
I have it. Yeah. No, not yet. You got the impression. Yeah.
Talk to him.
Tell me what I want to know. Yeah.
Why does he push everything off the table? I don't know. Nobody does. That is a secret cats will keep forever. And he nods for a moment and turns back toward the road, and is just kind of looking through the sky to see if he can see if Peep is, circling, hunting or whatnot. She's not especially good on the ground, or hunting things on the ground like she is at the water, but she can at least lead Eli to a bunch of to a brace of conies or something.
Okay.
Yep. So he's kind of just watching for for that to see if there's any indication that they've found some of these rumored Hassenpfeffer.
Yes. So yeah, you do. And I'm sorry. You said you're waiting at that rough intersection ish.
He hasn't wandered too far from where he was talking to the horse, but he hasn't approached the house yet.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, when you when you sort of wait for a little while, eventually you do see Peep kind of excuse me, flying from a distance, kind of like silhouetted against the gray sky. And Peep, when he wants to move, can fly at a pretty good pace, and he comes up to you and settles onto your shoulder. You don't see any rabbit, but you do see the telltale signs of like rabbit fur, one which seems to be stuck in his beak. So you think that probably must have been a little one that Peep seems to have caught, and Peep seems reasonably content. Ile, though, you have not heard back from yet.
I'm sorry, he'll look up at Peep and ask her, where is he?
And Peep trills and says, north, and kind of jumps up and flits about your head, and sort of in the rough area of the go here to find the big things, like somewhere in there apparently is where Ile has ended up, although you don't know why, because you made it clear, like, go left or right of the path or whatever, but not go past them. But apparently he's gotten a little bit farther afield than planned.
Is he far?
And Peep sort of spirals up again and then down. Not for me! And then leaps up and spirals up again.
Go and tell him to come back. Bring him here.
And she sort of trills again and then cries again, echoing against the air, and then speeds off to the north. It's probably, if you had to guess, probably about 10-15 minutes, and you can see that the sky is darkening, and it's too early for it to be darkening for like evening weather. You think that there is a storm coming on. You can see the sort of clouds rolling in, and you can almost see the sheets of rain kind of getting closer and closer because you're looking down, towards the ocean. As Peep arrives back, along with Ile. Now, Ile comes up to you and is carrying the dead, sort of limp body of a rabbit in his mouth. And he comes up to you and says,
don't talk with your mouth full. Give me that.
Prepare. He says, I couldn't even eat yet. There's more there. Behind. Big horses. Big horses. His eyes widen. He says, I raced one.
Raced one?
And he nods.
Was he fast?
And he stops. He's like, he got a head start.
I see.
And Peep sort of on your shoulder trills, he was much faster and much bigger. And Ile, like, sort of snarls at Peep. Got a head start.
Bigger than those?
And he looks up, and Peep and Ile. I saw two, Peep says. One was a man on a horse, and another one, even bigger. And Ile says, that was the one that I raced. I don't know that he got a head start. And Peep says, she didn't even know it was racing you. He says,
it's okay.
Maybe it was. It was fine. I would have gotten him.
Did you have fun?
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
And at this point, the rain is starting to come down now.
All right. They said we can stay here. Let's get out of the rain.
If you head over, you can come to this like kind of this longhouse, basically, that would allow you to do this. So, so as you get to the house and you're kind of resting and you can hear the rain sort of pounding down on the roof, you also hear the sound of rumbling thunder. But you've obviously been out in storms many times, a real fur.
Yeah.
There's more rumbling than that. And a couple times, the thunder rumbles and then it keeps on rumbling. You're like, this doesn't make sense. And if you were just to sort of peek outside, you would be able to see hooves just like of horses just pounding past. Now, I mentioned that there are horses that wander around, but it was like a couple here, a couple there. This is a whole like group. I don't know what's the official
haggle. It's a herd.
Yeah, haggle. I don't even know what it is. Like,
it's a herd.
Like a herd, just basically a herd of horses galloping northwest into the fields. And as they do so, you can see every so often sheets of lightning illuminate the darkness, and you can see it reflecting off the bodies of these horses. But they are all definitively heading that direction into the area. Otherwise, you're fairly dry in here. And Ile says, I can race them. I'm ready.
Right now.
Kind of like jumps up.
And so...
Come on.
You're young. That's why you're so rambunctious. Anyway.
That's why I'm so fast.
Yes,
come on.
I know you're much faster than me. But Peep is faster than both of us.
What? No, unless Peep gets a head start. And Peep just trills and kind of like, she had her like kind of looks like peeks above. Sorry, he or she? I guess it is she. So she looks up over her wing and then like kind of like lowers her wing, their beak below her wing again.
So staying in the longhouse. So Mom, the brothers are here somewhere?
So yes, but you haven't seen them. And the longhouse basically has two parts to it. There's a one side which is near where the fire is stoked, and there's a couple of rooms down there, and you assume that's where some combination of Vandrin and her sons live. And then there's down the side where you are, which is not quite as warm, but it's still fairly warm, and it's certainly dry. And there's like basically a pile of straw, like the equivalent of that, down at this side of the longhouse. The inside of the longhouse you would classify as not dirty, but they've missed some spots. You know what I mean? Like it's
more than they can handle.
Right. And the size of this longhouse, by the way, is much larger than what would normally just accommodate the 3 people that are allegedly living in here. It seems impossible that it was built to hold this few people. But there's nobody else here now.
Or even if you just add the father, it's still too big for even
Still
that.
too big.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's all that you see here now.
So Arilfor will basically kind of snap the rabbit in half and give like the front half to Ile to eat. And I mean, Peep already ate, so but he takes the haunches and kind of spears them on some small sticks and starts cooking them over the fire with some salt he brought from the Shire. It's it's great. Or maybe it's peat. I don't know. It could be anything.
Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, he cooks a small dinner for himself, and everybody is well tended.
Eventually, probably fairly late, you're aware of a small dark shape that sort of comes towards you slowly. And pretty obviously it's the only small dark shape that could be this small, and you see that it is human, and it's a boy.
Oh, and I thought you meant small like a cat.
Not that small. No, I thought about that. Yeah, no. This but he comes up, he says, is everything okay? Like, do you have enough food?
Yes, Connor, thank you.
Wow, Prince Justin, if it was a half-starved rabbit named James, he could snap into a Slim Jim. Wow. Snap into a Slim Jim. Oh yeah.
So,
okay, anyway.
So you should be able to right click on Prince Justice's name and time him out for like 10 minutes.
Oh man. So anyway, he says, tomorrow morning, are you, Prince Justin says, sad panda, tomorrow morning, are you gonna leave? Are you gonna talk to some more animals? Are you gonna beat the ogre? Are you gonna find the outrider? And he like starts rattling off other options. Are you going to like walk outside and then look at the sky?
Point list.
And then he just goes on for a while.
And when he finally gets to the end of whatever his list is, or starts repeating himself, Arilfor would just kind of hold up his hand and just like, yes.
Wow. That's wow. And then he kind of lowers his voice. He says, Mama doesn't want me to talk to strangers, but you should know that the ogre, it is really scary. You need to find the outrider because he's a hero, and the hero always beats the bad monster. That's what they say.
That's what they say.
Yeah. So if you can just find him, maybe you can talk to his horse, because you can talk to anything. So if you could talk to his horse, then his horse could talk to him, and then,
That is my plan.
Okay. Because Mama's sad a lot. Okay. And he kind of like gets up and he kind of sort of stands and bows. And you hear this sort of stirring from the other side of the longhouse. And he's like, okay, so good luck, animal guy. And then he goes, and he like darts off in that direction, very quietly, actually. And you don't hear anything else. At least for a while, you do not hear anything else.
Before going to sleep, Arilfor will take a moment to make a bit of a prayer to Frey, to, if you can spare the time, watch over this family and their animals, that they don't deserve this kind of bullshit, and to help him in his attempts tomorrow to deal with this ogre in whatever way. Now I can't form cogent sentences.
Whatsoever way so find the
the solution.
Okay.
Wow, 3-syllable word. Holy crap.
Oh, Rilfer's like, learning. This is a good spot for us to pause for a moment and just welcome everybody to day 4 of Beowulf. This is Age of Heroes, and this is the second part of the 3 Ogre brothers, currently being played by myself. I'm your Game Master, Arvan Eleron, and Trendane Sparks, who's below me, who's playing Arilfor, and only below me on the overlay, not in our hearts, of course. If you like what you see in here from Handiwork Games Duet System, please do 2 things. Please, first of all, follow the channel and support the Patreon, subscribe, and all that stuff. We have a lot of tabletop play we do here every month, and a lot of role-playing when we're not doing tabletopping, so it's always a good time here if you're into that sort of thing. Also, please let the folks at Handiwork Games know that you are watching and enjoying this, because they love to hear that. They are not officially sponsoring us or anything, but we are grateful that we are able to use their art and stuff like that, and I'm enjoying this system quite a bit, and so definitely let them know if you like what you see in here. And also remember that next month we will have 2 more sessions of Beowulf starting, we haven't figured out the schedule yet, but one of them will involve Tren here, continuing with his story with Arilfor and the 3 Ogre brothers. The other one will have Tari Tunes playing Runesild as she continues with the Hermit's Sanctuary. So 2 different adventures, both set in the same world. So thank you all for being here. Okay. So, as the next morning dawns, it is there's the freshness of the air outside, and the rain seems to have stopped. Although it is not a beautiful sunny morning, it's still gray, but it is at least a fresh, to jump out of game for a second, Seattle, Washington morning, so to speak. And you could leave the longhouse as you wish, if and when you wish. There is not, the fire is sort of pretty cold at this point, but and the longhouse is somewhat cold, not freezing, but is a little chilly in the morning.
Also, for those of you in the Seattle area, some friends of mine just opened a tap room there.
Oh, nice.
And another buddy of mine who does live up there, and I told him about it, and he's like, yeah, but I don't drink anymore. I'm like, yes, but they have 0% alcohol ciders and 0% alcohol beers. And more importantly, let me make sure that I read this just to make sure that I get it exactly the way he said it. Where is it? While we take the time to craft our own 0% cider recipes, we're offering 0% beers, sodas, and a tea blend from a local furry tea smith that is exclusive to our location.
I see. What's the name of this place?
It's a great question.
Yeah, do they have root beer? That's really the question.
Right. It would be. Let's see. Did I
root beer? Honorable mention if they have ginger ale.
It is called Slightly Furry.
Slightly Furry. I wonder what clientele is really.
I don't know.
Do they appeal to a broad base of people involving non-furries as well? Well, or is it one of those ones where you walk in, it's like a biker bar, but instead it's a bunch of mascots,
yeah, right.
And you have the furry motorcycle outside with the fur on the thing too.
Oh, that would just be terrible in Seattle. That would just turn into a mossy, soggy mess. That'd be horrible.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Prince Justin. That's the place. And furries have always been a pretty welcoming bunch. You know, as long as you're not a racist or a Nazi or a bigot or anything like that. So,
all right.
But cool. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, it has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
That's fine. So you have woken up. You do not see a sign of either of the children or the mother.
All right. Well, the purpose of the point of the day was established last night. So he heads out and tells Peep and Eli, take me to where you saw them.
And Eli says, okay, and then zips off. And Peep sort of again cries out and then leaps into the air. And you trace a path. Now, this is just so you know, you can traverse this, but this does mean if you follow them directly, you're going to be going cutting
overland,
across country.
Yeah.
You know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
that's how we usually travel. So
I figured, yeah. All right. So you go this way. So as you were heading into the land, they're sort of make their way into the middle of this sort of field. And again, there are these rolling hills and grasses and plains, and the sort of grass sways back and forth, that type of thing, some long grass. I would ask you to witness any of my Ghost of Tsushima play, and you will know what I mean in terms of running on a horse through a bunch of grass. That's basically what it would look like. But as you are going through, I would like you to make a perception check for me, please.
You also got a lot of that in Shadow of the Colossus. But
yeah. Good example, yes.
Of course, I refused to finish that game. So you said perception?
Perception, yeah. Great game.
15. Yes, it was
15.
A wonderful game. I just refused to finish.
I know why. Although there's some redemptive aspects of it, but still. Okay, so as you are going through, you hear what sounds like at first the rumble of thunder, Arealfur, but there is definitely no storm cloud that you see at the moment on the horizon. But you can hear it.
Do you get a sense of direction, or is it rolling hill?
You believe it is coming from the northwest, roughly the direction that you're going, but it seems to be getting louder and headed your way.
That's my thought as well, Trippett. Hooves. I just imagine trying to get up over to the crest of a hill to see what's going on, and all I can see is Eli with his ears back and his tail tucked, and he is hauling ass down the hill as fast as he can towards me, just like, they're coming! They're coming!
I found that for you!
Oh no.
Message for you, sir.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So keep heading that direction, but he's also kind of watching.
Yeah, because Peep sort of zips down almost immediately, about maybe 30 seconds later, and then lands on your shoulder and says, they're on the way, all of them. And and she says, Ele's in front, maybe.
No. He's got a head start. We'll see how long that lasts. But yeah, he'll try to get to a crest so you can see.
You get up to the crest. So I want to paint the picture for chat. You get up to the crest about 10 seconds before, as you climb up out of the grass, you just see these horses just surging towards you. And they come towards you and sort of Peep, you can almost even Peep sort of shivering on her shoulder like she wants to take off, but she stays. You don't see Ele. As they arrive at the hill, now they easily could have gone up and over, but they basically part around and just keep on going. And as they go by, the last one, and this is the one they're sort of like galloping along, but the last one you see is maybe a step behind the others, clearly not because it can't keep up, but because it is taking its own path. You have a real first seen horses of many different sizes and shapes in your time. You have seen wild ones and tamed ones. You've seen well-kept ones and not. You have never seen a horse like this. It is a strong...
Zebra. No.
Yeah, it is a zebra, no. It is a huge horse with great corded muscles beneath his chestnut coat. And as he... really, it's more of a a canter, let's say, than a gallop. As he goes along, you can see him look at you with these dark and deeply intelligent eyes. And then he canters on past, and behind him, about 30 seconds, is Ele, who's like running behind, who comes up to you and sort of pants. Horse head start.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like jerking his head in the direction of this horse. It is, however, magnificent. Like, leaving aside, if that's the one that Ele was trying to race, this thing looks like it was going at half normal speed, and it was keeping up with the other group of them.
Well, as it passes, he would kind of wave and say good morning, in his...
Actually, this is important. So you'd have to shout to be heard.
Oh, yeah.
You would shout just good morning. Like, tell me exactly what you say. Is it just good morning? Because I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, I assume you don't do this and you're like, good morning, when it's like that. But once they're past and you just see the big horse, you could yell loud enough, presumably, to be heard. Yeah. But then the question is, are you just like, yo, what do you say?
Kind of. It's his intent is to he already knows that he's been noticed, but his intent is to make sure that this entity knows that he can speak with him in a way that most other humans probably cannot.
Right. Give me the phrase, if you can.
Basically, he says, blessed morning, swift runner.
The horse...
And no, it's not Sleipnir, but good call.
The horse slows and then turns and tosses its great head, and the mane sort of flows back in the... just
like a well of balsam commercial.
Oh, God, it's the Fabio of horses, okay? No, it's just, it's a magnificent horse, and it turns and sort of trots back to you. And despite Ele's panting, even his breathing slows a little bit as this horse sort of trots up to you. and then it looks down upon you. And this was not like the other horse that looked down on you for height. You get the impression this is just looking down on you, like at multiple levels, sort of, and sort of looks down and just sort of stares and waits.
So he does a slight bow.
Eli says, "That's the horse. That's the horse." That's the horse.
I figured that out. Thank you. And so he takes a moment to kind of lean from one side to the other to look the horse over, and if it will allow, or I guess I should say he, if it's the Fabio of horses.
Yes, it is a he.
So he will lean in to share breath. That's how you greet a horse.
So you do that, and the horse sort of leans in, and you do that, and then it kind of, and as you look up after doing this, and you look up into its eyes seem, I don't want to say fathomless, but they seem as if they have seen, a lot. That this is possibly a horse that has seen more than a few winters, but is at the absolute prime of its strength and will. And it looks down at you after doing this, and then lifts its head up and looks as if waiting.
My name is Arilfer. This is Peep. This is Ile.
The eyes flicker to Peep, and then down to Ile, and Ile is like, "I raced you before," and like the horse pays zero attention other than just to sort of look for a second, then look back to you. And
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I heard from a human speaker of tales that the Ettins here were cruel, and we have come to try to put a stop to it if we can, either hopefully peacefully, or if required, not peacefully. But I have been told that I should seek a rider.
And so it kind of lifts its head, and he says, "You mean the man on this horse with the shield?"
Yes.
"I have seen him. He watches me. I have ran these plains, and he and the others have watched me. The Ettin you seek, he too has sought me. He wishes to make me his mount." And he kind of tosses his head a little bit, and his mane kind of flicks proudly. And again, just standing there, just like the rip, this horse. All right, I'm going to tell a quick side story, which I've already told Trent, but I'm going to tell the rest of chat. When my father was a boy, he was maybe 12 or 13. He was working on a dairy farm in Vermont, and he ended up falling next to a workhorse. And the only reason you and I are talking is because my father rolled to the left about half a second before the hoof of the horse, which was spooked, which is the size of my father's head, stomped down into the ground, and that would have been the end of my father. So I'm glad that my father rolled left. Thanks, Dad. The horse was enormously strong, as workhorses usually are. This seems like a combination of speed and strength, though. And so everything about this horse kind of ripples strength and pride. And you get the impression of Arilfer, even when he says he would make me his mount, just the way that he as if he's getting rid of...
As if you can believe that shit.
Yeah, that, and also as if he's getting rid of the reins before they even show up on his butt. Like he's even imagining what it would be like, type of thing. Yes, my dad survived Dragon Spear. Spoiler. Hi, Dragon Spear.
Unless he was 13 when you were. Never mind.
I'm here to tell you wasn't.
Had a feeling.
Yeah.
So yeah, he a real very kind of somewhat laughs at the absurdity of that idea. To kind of, you know, like when the horse is like, you know, make me his mountain. He's like, yeah, okay, right. No. I mean, you can just tell. Anyway, so he sobers a bit after that, and then it's like, can you point me to the rider?
And he says, the rider has his own horse. I do not speak to him. I do not know his movements, but he travels the plains I do. He does not come to me. I do not go to him.
But sometimes you pass.
And the horse sort of nods slowly. Yes.
Then I shall continue to seek him.
And the horse sort of says, you said you wish to help against the ogre, the Etten. Why do you think you can convince him? His heart is rotten. His mind is driven by greed.
Hope.
And
while
oh, sorry, go ahead.
To fight and hurt and harm is an easy path. It is the sort of path that leads people to be cruel and wicked and harmful. It becomes habitual. You stop trying to be nice. You stop trying to be kind, to balance your own livelihood with nature. If he cannot be taught, if he cannot find a peaceful solution, then I will do whatever I can to end the problem as I must, but I would rather try kindness first.
And the horse kind of lifts its great head and says, I do not understand humans. Kindness is not usual for you, and it is not akin to the Etten. If you face him, he will not show you kindness or mercy. He will seek to enslave you as he has sought to capture me.
Well, that is why it is called hope. But
No.
there is always the plan B.
The horse sort of like lowers his head again and then, I do not understand. But, and you identified yourself as a real fur, right?
Yes.
I do not understand. But one called a real fur. I will watch to see of your progress. If the storm comes again, watch for me. I am Thunderclip, and I race the heavens. And then he turns and, like, freaking books it in the direction of the crew and goes so fast that there's a moment of, like, where you're just like, was I just talking to was there a horse here just a second ago? And is just like a shot down the field. And Eli's like, I said he gets a head start a lot.
There's a scene in the animated The Last Unicorn.
Which I'm teaching right now, The Last Unicorn, actually.
Nice. Yep. Where at some point she takes off running. And when she does, it's like the space where she occupies, as soon as she's gone, it's like there's this vacuum, and everybody kind of gets pulled into that space as they kind of get drawn along with it as she moves away. I love that scene. One
of the great sequences of that book actually is, and that's a wonderful book for these times too, because what they're fighting against is ignorance, right? And against what the Red Bull, represents is its raging ignorance filled the sky. But there's a great scene at the end where the unicorn, I'm going to spoil this for you, but the book's been out since 1968.
I was going to say,
I mean,
Mr.
Jesus.
Beagle wrote it a while ago.
Literally the unicorn just like charges at it and the bull just walks away. Like, it doesn't even face her. It just turns and walks into the sea and disappears. It's a great sequence. And also that animated version, the screenplay for that was also written by Peter Beagle. One of the few films where they actually had the same writer doing the screenplay, which is probably why it doesn't suck. Also, it has a soundtrack done by the band America.
Yes, it does.
Which is responsible for "I've been through the desert on a unicorn with no name." Okay, it didn't say the unicorn part, but anyway.
Syllable is a little off there. Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
My only problem with the animation was I really wish Mia Farrow had not voiced the.
Yeah, I didn't love that either. Yeah. It didn't quite fit. And I could see other animation that would have worked better, but the Red Bull is on point. Like that's.
Oh my God,
the bull is great.
So
the bull's great.
Duh. But Angela Lansbury as Mommy Fortuna.
Oh man. Oh. Yeah, it's great stuff. The Last Unicorn has beautiful. One of the great lines of all science fiction and fantasy is King Hagrid. When King Hagrid fell, he dropped like a knife through clouds. Like, who says that shit? It's absolutely
Peter S. Beagle.
Oh my God, is it good? It's one of those ones that you're just like
Christopher Lee as King Haggard. Yes.
Absolutely. No, wait, is that true? I forgot that.
That's Christopher Lee.
That's right. He's King Haggard. Oh man. Anyway, his writing, Beagle's writing is just exquisite. Like it's just iconic. Knife through clouds. Very little ever surprised King Haggard. So goddamn good. Anyway. All right. So, so the horse is off like a shot. And so you were there. So the impression that you get very much, a real fur, is that this is not the same horse that the rider has on it. Like, you get the impression riders and horses are not a part of this thing. So, yeah. A thunderclip.
So we will have his eyes on us as well.
And Ela says, there's a lot of people watching us. And Peep says, I can watch you. And Ela says, yeah, but others watching us. Everybody. Everyone in this land watches everybody. It's weird.
It is a bit odd. But to simply watch is not enough. We must spur them to action.
How are we going to do that? Are we going to beat the ogre by just sending a bunch of animals to run him over? That will work. I can race the animals, and then they'll come to the ogre, and then we'll run him over.
That's true. However, I really should avoid using the word spur when there's horses around. Oh. Anyway.
Ela nods.
This is why I stop to talk to them. In hopes that I can stir what hope may lie in their hearts to, when the moment comes, stand up for themselves. With us, hopefully.
Peep says, doesn't seem like there's much hope left to me. Kind of picks up and circles around your head.
It is slightly buried, but not so deep that its roots cannot push it up into the light.
And Peep circles around. Well, we'll see, I guess. What do you want me to find?
See if you can find the rider and his horse.
And Peep nods and says, you're it. And then speeds off, and Ela snarls and then bolts off in the direction of Peep. again, I should note, since I'm being somewhat unfair to Ilay's really fast. He's not going to beat an osprey on the wing. I'm sorry.
No, he's not. He's not.
You know,
He's really
nor is he going to beat the greatest horse of all time, apparently.
Right.
The other thing.
Yeah.
But
I should have said, "Do you know a horse named Shadowfax?" and just watch Thunderclip be like, "Ha! That poser!"
I beat him in the Ride of the Fields 2 years ago, and yeah, you get the impression. So, they head off, and I assume, you tell me, are you like walking in the general direction of them?
Generally, I'm slightly off. I mean, because since Ilay is young, he's easily goaded into chasing after Peep, rather than us trying to spread out in a slightly wider thing to be able, because it's like he may not be able to see it
right
as easily as Peep can, but he can smell it
right.
a lot.
Let's cast a wide net, but Ilay's just like, I'm
gonna catch the bird. No, you're not. Whatever.
Okay. So you set off across, and I should say that as you're setting off, what that means is that as you make your way, and it's a couple of hours of travel, because these are not like high hills, but they are, hills. There is somewhat a bit of a roll to them. And when you get to about the center of the area, almost to where you see the arrow pointing, if you look to the right of that area, to the east of where you are, you can see what must be Magan's Hall, like sort of rising up a little bit on a hill above the rest, not on a huge mountain. And then in the far distance, or the farther distance to the north, you can see the mountains, but that's the land of Bald and whatever. To the right, though, you can see this and the sort of houses and paths sort of leading from it, although you'd probably have to travel an hour or so to the east to get there. To the west, as you're looking around, you don't see anything or hear anything this time, but about an hour later, you would guess, Peep comes flying down and sort of lights again on your shoulder and preens herself and, does her usual thing. And there's no sign of Ilay. And then after a minute or so, Peep says, "So we think we found him. Ilay wanted to race them, but I told him you wouldn't like it. He's coming back. He'll be here probably in another minute. But we found him. He was just riding along, though, by himself. He had on the gray clothing, the armor you wear, and a shield, and he was on the back of a horse. And it was a good horse, not as big as Thunderclip, but it was a good-sized horse. And it was coming this way, roughly. I don't think he knows you're here, though."
And so he'll, Arilfra will kind of adjust his heading to, come to an intersection point.
Okay. Yeah, and about 30 seconds later, you can see galloping towards you at all speed is Ilay, who then comes up to you, like, slides to a halt. Head, and Peep says, "Head start." "Yes." Right. And then says, "There's horse. I already told him." And sort of snarls at Peep. "Did you tell him that the horse's name is Frosrick?" And Peep sort of looks at him and tilts her head. And Ilay says, "That's what happens when you don't listen, because you're too busy showing off. I heard him call him Frosrick."
And
would you hear that wolf in the background of the music that I was playing? Nice.
I didn't. I've got it all.
Outstanding. Thank you.
I've got it all turned all the way
Sorry,
down right now.
Patting myself to the
Yep. No, I when I first connected, before you and I got into the Zoom call, when I first connected to it, I still had the volume up, and so I could hear all of it. I was like, "What is that noise?" Because I thought it was raining again, and it's like, no, that wasn't it. And so I turned it down about 50%, and I was starting to work on something else, and then I heard, kind of a.
Oh, that too. Yep.
Yeah, I look at her because it's got a little bit of dimensionality to it.
It does.
And so I'm like, what is moving in my room? Because normally I have all that stuff turned off.
Right.
And I was like, I couldn't tell where it was coming from. And it was kind of freaking me out a little bit. I'm like, wait. And then the wolf howled. And I was like, Okay. And I went
And you
over
were
to the
like, all right,
audio.
where's
I'm
the
like,
wolf in
turn
my
that
room?
down. We're going to turn that down right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So since his ego has been a bit bruised over the last several hours with various races and whatnot, when Ile delivers the name of the horse, he just kind of leans down and just ruffles his fur and like head rubs on him and just just praises him quite heavily for that, just to make him feel better.
Yeah, Eli does seem to feel a little bit better after that, although still has a slight, little bit of a like an irritated tone when he talks about Pete.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. She's older than you. Don't worry about it. But, so yeah, he's like, all right, let's go, and continues moving on in the direction that the horse and the rider and the horn that was blowing are located.
Where is the horse and the rider? Okay, so fairly soon after that, you can see that there is you can hear the sound of a, and you can definitely hear hooves, but this time it's one clearly horse that's galloping along.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see actually as this person is galloping up that it is clearly a single horse on a single rider, or it's a single rider on a single horse.
I was like, wait.
I was going to say, yeah, that makes sense. What I was saying don't make sense. So this is, again, it's also a chestnut, although probably a little bit lighter than what Thunderclip is and clearly smaller. But it is still a good, sized horse that is probably bigger than the one that you talked to back at the farm, and is moving at a pretty good clip. And you can see that riding on the back of it is this man. He has a shield. He has a bearded axe with him that you can see. And he has what looks like a knee-length sort of male hauberk, if you had to guess, because it's kind of fitting over his knees. And he is wearing an iron-rimmed helm. And he comes basically galloping directly at you.
As he gets to within about 50 feet or so, because it does not take a horse long to cover that distance at all, he will raise his hand to wave at him and to hail him.
And he sort of slows down. You notice one interesting thing about the horse too, is that the horse has a very well-made saddle, but also has a thick woolen coat that you can see sort of like wrapped around the horse. So you can still see the chestnut, in front and the legs and everything. But around the center, its torso seems to be wrapped with something, and it might even be like a kind of armor, although it's not metal. And you maybe vaguely remember, Ariel, for having heard that there are some nomadic tribes and so on that you've heard that ride very quickly, legends of ones that ride and their horses ride at great speeds and wear some warm clothing that is also difficult to pierce with swords and things like that.
But still more of a cloth barding kind of.
Definitely more than, yes, for sure. And so he draws his horse up to a stop and looks down at you and he says, who are you and what is your business in these lands? His voice is sort of clipped and formal and is very much not like, I'm a farmer, like, at all.
What did you say Eli said that the horse's name was?
Hrosrik.
Hrosrik, okay.
Literally Hrossrik, in case you're curious.
Someday I'll write it down. I just can't do it while you're talking. So the Eli takes a moment and looks directly at the horse and greets him.
You mean Arilfer, not Eli.
Fuck, see, I do it every time.
Because Eli is like, want to go? Like, let's race. Yeah,
no. No, you're correct. Arilfer looks at the horse whose name you said. Yeah, sure, okay. And basically, greets you. Is it still morning or is it getting closer to noon?
Now it would be getting close to noon, maybe a little bit past it, actually.
Been walking
walking a fair bit, yeah.
All right. So, Eli basically, see, I did it again. Arilfer says something along the lines of a warm breeze to you this afternoon, Rothric.
And Rosric kind of like tilts his head and then says, "You should speak to my master." And as he's saying that, like the one on the back says, "How do you know the name of my horse?"
And he looks up at the rider and he's like, "My apologies. Eli told me."
And the man looks down. "You speak to your wolf?"
"To almost all animals, yes."
He sort of like nods slowly. You can see that there is a bit of white in his beard visible below his helm.
I would have no idea what that's like.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Very distinguished, ready to become a endowed chair at Oxford type of thing. Right, exactly. So he looks down at you and he says, "I see. I have heard legends of those who can speak in the tongues of beast, but I had not met anyone with that ability before now." And he says, "So, one who speaks with the beasts, why do you come to these lands?"
I am Arilfer. This is Peep. We heard from a scop, a song of 3 Etin brothers who were ruling poorly these people. And I've come to try to bring peace.
And he nods and he says, "Peace to these lands. Then you would defeat these ogres. Magan, this one here."
Defeat or teach to be better, if possible.
Teach to be better. He sort of looks and he says, "Have you had cause to deal with ogres before?"
No.
Teaching, learning, is not something they know much of. At least, not in my experience. They must find something else to occupy their cruelty. And he sort of swings his leg around and he dismounts and he takes off his helm. And for the first time you get to see him. I should mention that his voice is a little odd, Arilfer. It's not halting in the way that yours is when you're talking to humans, but it is. It seems to be accented oddly. There are many. If you had to guess, there's like many influences on it. It's like I have a person that I know at my university who is originally from Sweden, but was educated at, I believe it was Oxford or Cambridge, and then came here and has been in America for, I don't know, 30 plus years. So he's speaking English, absolutely 100% understandable in every respect. but it's got a slight British accent, but then there's an occasional twang of a word that feels like it's sort of accented like this, which doesn't quite fit, and that's because of the Swedish. So this is sort of like that, where there's like multiple things. Now because you don't spend a lot of time around humans anyway, it might all sound strange to you, but the point is you haven't encountered anyone else that sounds like this. This doesn't sound like someone from around here, I guess is my point.
Mm-hmm.
So let me show you what he looks like. Where'd you go? Ah, yes. All right, appearing now.
Sir appearing in this stream.
Okay. So this is what he looks like. He has white hair, which is white hair and beard, and they are close cropped. And you can see that he has had a few, obviously a few winters on him. He definitely is older, but he also, as he dismounts, does so with ease and fluidity. He holds his shield and axe not like an old man at all. He seems to have complete confidence in his weapons. And as he pats Hrosric, his horse, on the side, the horse kind of nuzzles him, and you get the impression that he's very connected. You get the impression to the horse.
Mm-hmm.
And so he takes the helm off and he kind of holds it underneath his arm, and he says, "This teaching that you mention would be difficult, I think. All that the ogres have learned is that they can kill with impunity, and they can do so with no fear of anyone except their brothers, and their brothers will not attack because they do not wish to be defeated themselves. No blade can pierce them, nothing can harm them. They are essentially invulnerable. At least, so they seem to be."
That is what those at the church said.
And he pauses and he says, "The church. You saw someone in a church."
3. A father, 2 brothers,
What were their names?
and
I can
tells him.
Yeah, I can give you that if you want. That's it was Bartus, Bernardus, and Cadaris. Those are the 3.
That's exactly what I thought they weren't.
Thought they weren't. So you tell him the names, and he sort of says, "Unless you are making a joke, stranger, you should know that the 3 names you have mentioned were the names of the 3 who ruled this land. The king, Bartas, ruled this place until he was overthrown by the Ogre King and his sons."
He had circlet on his head. And
"Then you have spoken to a ghost."
then I have 3.
He nods and he says, "Interesting. So you think that you and your wolf and the bird here, you will defeat or convince Magan to change his ways, to become better, different?"
That is the hope. But if that hope is not and he turns to Ile and he's like, "What's the word I'm looking for here?"
And Ile says, "Race? Go fast?"
No, not that. And he turns to Peep. He's like, what's, you don't know English. You don't know human tongues. Why am I asking you?
You said something about hope, Peep said.
Yes.
And meanwhile, of course, he just hears like, just this like growling and.
Hope does not work. Then must fight. But I would rather lead with kindness if I can.
Kindness. And he sort of like rolls the word around his mouth as if trying an unusual food. Kindness. Kindness. How old are you, stranger?
And he looks from Peep to Elay and I do not know.
And he sort of seems slightly surprised at that response, but then he's like, younger than me at any event.
And he kind of leans to the sides and looks him up and down. Yes.
And he nods and he says, you may not have had many dealings with humans, but I can tell you that kindness is not what they will usually use. I'm glad to hear that you will fight if you must, but I would encourage you not to wait too long before making the decision. I would like you to make a persuasion check for me, please, Ariel Fur.
Okay.
I'm going to see what information can be given or not.
Persuasion. This will go poorly. 7.
Yeah. He says I do not know. I would like to believe that you can succeed, but I have heard others who have spoken their desire to help the people, and who have also fallen short. I have done what I can, and the ogre has sent many out to find me. So far, they have not succeeded. I cannot risk being lost to these people. I cannot accompany you, but I will watch from a distance. I will warn you to be careful. There are those who would deceive in Magan's service, and they might try to trip you up. If that happens, you will be at a strong disadvantage.
If there is fighting and the people fight as well, will you fight too?
And he sort of rubs his chin, and he says, suicide will do these people no good. I will watch. If it seems like I may be able to turn the tide against the ogre, I may ride into the combat. But if it appears that you will be destroyed as so many others have, then I will continue my own lonely vigil and wait for the right moment to strike.
I hear you.
He nods and he climbs back up onto the horse. Actually puts his helm on first and then comes back up onto the horse. And he says, if you would seek him out, head directly to the east. His is the great hall on the hill. You must convince the guards to let you through, but that should not be difficult. At the moment, Magan fears nothing, And so long as he does, he will probably find you more amusing than a threat. And he backs up a few steps on Rosric and then says, good fortune to you. May the god above watch over your steps. Which means you now know you're dealing with a church follower, theoretically. And he turns and then gallops off. Not quite as fast as Thunderclip did, but still.
But then who does?
Yeah, but who does that fast? And Peep sort of lands again on your shoulder and says, was that more hope?
That hope was as thin as a blade of grass.
Does it count?
Barely. It seems that so many people here have been downtrodden for so long that no one is really willing to do what they must to try to make change.
So, Ile says, if we race all of them, that'll get them fired up, and then they'll want to overthrow the ogres, right?
If we race all of them, they will all be exhausted and not have the strength to fight.
Oh, and then like his eyes light up. But if we race the ogres, they'll be exhausted, and then they'll be easier to fight. He looks very pleased with himself.
Is a possibility. However, we would need to get their weapons away from them.
That's okay. We'll figure that out. Did you hear that, Peep? Did you hear how I made that? Did you hear that? Huh? Did you hear that? And Peep says, I heard that. Did you hear it? Yeah, because I had that idea right then. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well then, to the west we go. East we go.
Into the forest. Into the mines. Okay.
I'm tempted. There's a part of there is definitely a part of a realtor who's just like, all right, these people don't want to help. Fudge them. We're going to go back home. They can all die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you wonder if there isn't part of that, as you described it, sort of a they've got that 1,000-yard stare, thing that they're dealing with. Okay, so you set off to the east, which means it's probably another hour or so from there. So it's probably mid-afternoon, actually, probably closing in around the time that we are right now on the East Coast. When you find yourself closing in on the hall. And I am going to show you a picture on stream of this hall. Not a map this time, to be clear. Exterior. There we go. Okay. So if I pull this up here. Okay. You should be able to see this on stream now. Just give me a second because it's a little, I had to just drop that a little bit. There we go. So that is what you see. It's like this very sizable, as you can see, like A-frame, basically, that is pointing, the roof of which is pointing up over the hill. And you, as you get sort of a little bit closer to it, you can see that actually this thing is immense. Now, I mentioned previously that the Bregda's fort looked like it had been kind of retrofitted, for use by an ogre. This thing looks like it's been built from the ground up for the ogre because it's a big size. There are several scattered smaller longhouses near near the sizable hall that you see there. There is no palisade, there's no ditch or dirt wall, and the only signs of defense that you can see are occasional riders who seem to patrol the outside boundaries of the structures, kind of trotting along, although they do not hail you or stop you. They do look a little bit more refined, though, possibly, than the people that you saw at Bregda's Fort, for whatever that's worth. If you take the winding side path up the hill, it would bring you close to the main hall. The roof is thatched with bright yellow straw, which is proof that it is indeed new construction. And it has wooden columns, and on them you can see they are carven with images displaying feats of strength and scenes of battle. And in all the imagery, you see one large creature, looks very much like an ogre, who is continually victorious. Like on every column you see, like it's like, soldiers fighting, and then the ogre, and then soldiers fighting, and then the ogre. Like, it's not hard to tell what the story is that they're providing. There are a few guards though, with spears that are standing outside the doors to the hall, and one of them wears a horn on a baldric. And as you walk up, they say, "Hold, stranger. What is your business here at Magan's Hall?"
I come to speak with the Lord.
Why do you wish to speak to him?
To learn.
To learn what?
To learn of him.
You do not know enough from the stories that are told?
Stories are often bigger than truth.
And one of them sort of nods slowly and says, Perhaps it is bigger, and yet still. So I would like you, please, to make a persuasion check here to gain entry to the hall. Sorry, I know there's been a bunch of persuasion, but there's also been a lot of animals.
Okay.
There's also been a lot of animals, though. So
that's true. This will go well. 13.
Okay. They sort of pause and look you up and down, and then he says, "Very well, stranger, you may enter. Keep your animal." Oh, you do have Ilay and Peep right there.
Yeah.
Right? He says, "Keep your animals close, and you must leave your spear here at the door. We will guard it for you until your exit."
And he holds it out.
And they take it, and they sort of nod at him. Not at you, and then open the doors. Inside the hall, you see there are war banners hanging from the interior columns. And in fact, I may even have this time I may actually have a map for this. Who would have thought it?
See, I'm not worried about leaving my spear behind, because the rule books say there's always a spear available, no matter where I go, no matter what I do.
That's right. There's always a spear, exactly.
There's just a forest of them inside. I just have to grab one and chuck it at the...
Okay, let's move us over to the hall. And I may be able to reveal most of this right now. I just need to double check, see if I can.
I'm looking at the stream. I'm not looking at the game.
All right. Well, you're going to see it on the stream here.
Well, no, because I mean, the stream is over here. I'm looking at the camera.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And most of the screen is kind of blocked. I got the
because I got the thing on there on purpose. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I think you can see most of this probably. Okay. Let me remove the exterior and reveal the map, such as it is. Okay. Let me get that center map out of the way, or move the center map rather, like this way. There we go. That's not bad. Okay. So what you see here as you enter, excuse me, is there are war banners that I mentioned that are hanging from interior columns. And there are several fire pits in a line in the center of the structure. There are benches close to the fires and cots, and there are blankets and lightweight screening frames that are further away. And at the far end of the hall, you see this person.
My throat.
You immediately are confronted by a very powerful ogre. No. Get out of my throne. He sits on top of you and okay. There we go. He sits upon this great treasure seat, and he is surrounded by smaller forms, many of them looking like sort of like the people who were the guards in the front, who sort of like laugh, and then they cough and laugh, and the cough was totally not me coughing right there, but actually a laugh, and they laugh at some rough joke, perhaps. And he leans back and watches as you enter the hall. No one calls you forward, but he also does not get up and walk towards you. So,
All right. Then if I don't see any distinct body language saying,
mm-hmm.
then he's going to start moving forward.
Okay.
And he will approach to about here and then stop.
Okay. So, there is, let's see, first of all, actually, let me do that one first. There are two people that are the ones that I want to highlight that are next to him. One of them is
Grima Wormtongue.
Is not Grima Wormtongue.
Okay.
He's a herald of woe. He's not welcome. Okay.
Gilgamesh. No.
Also not accurate. Okay, so there is one. Okay. There's one, and then there's one other. As I look for the tokens. Ah ha ha! Yes, indeed. There we go. Resize that. He's even larger. Okay. So there are a few around, but there are two in particular that I wanted to mention. One is standing fairly close to him, and he is dressed very much like the ones that were on the outside. He has got swords, shield, and he looks like he knows how to use it, basically. Mm-hmm. So there's that. The one on the other side, though, looks a little bit different. She has a long-sleeved male, kind of like a shirt, like a Bernie. There is a helmet and then a metal-rimmed shield. She has a sword in a well-worked leather scabbard. And she seems short and stocky, but very muscular, and just looks very, very strong. And as you approach, they sort of all stare at you, and finally you come to a stop in front of the seat, and the ogre, who is sitting there, and clearly it is the ogre, is sitting there, sort of looking at you. Now, important to note, he is quite large-looking, first of all, quite strong, and he has sort of strong armor, and he kind of views you. His eyes are narrowed, and he kind of looks at you, and then he says, "Why have you come to my hall?"
I heard a song of you, and I came to learn the truth.
Songs. There have been many songs written about me. I may have sung a few themselves. And he kind of smiles, and the people around him kind of laugh. And the stocky one to his left sort of says, "You got that right. He's goddamn mother," and then just starts swearing up a storm. And he kind of waits until that all dies down. The one to his the other one on the other side, the soldier, doesn't say anything. And he says, "What does the song say of me?"
It tells of kings, cruel and unbeatable.
They must be referring to me. I am, of course, not defeatable. But as to whether I'm cruel, I am not cruel to those who understand their place. And he kind of looks to the left and the right. And a couple, like, one person, a couple people over on the side, like, with mugs kind of, lift their mugs and toast their lord. And he says, they were some of the force to support me, and I was kind to them. That's not cruelty, it's common sense.
My brain is shutting down.
We are too in a minute.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we're almost done.
What do you know of ghosts?
That I've created a few. And you hear the people like like chuckling.
At the church?
What church?
To the south.
And he says, not on this island.
Was that not on this island?
There was actually another island, yeah. Was another place.
Okay. Oh, then he would have said that. I thought it was this island.
Yeah, it was close. I mean, it was,
Where the lighthouse.
And he says, it's been a while since I've been to the lighthouse. Since I have become king here, there's been no reason to head out. I am happy with these lands. So are my people.
You want for nothing?
Not really. As long as I am left alone to rule as I see fit, then I will leave others outside my kingdom alone. And it seems a good arrangement.
What if your servants, subjects wish to leave?
Leave? Why would they wish to leave? They have lands here which are fertile, horses, they have their farms, their livestock. I ask very little in return, just a small pittance. There's no reason to leave.
What if someone wished to come here to live?
I would see whether they could be accommodated. Will they serve me? Will they work the land? Will they protect me from enemies? If so, perhaps they could be accommodated.
What enemies?
There are always... Oh, go ahead, sir.
But you are undefeatable. What enemy could possibly threaten you?
That is true. But I do not wish to waste time with annoying insects. If creatures come, people, to attack me in the false belief that they can defeat me, it is an annoyance that I must deal with. I prefer to minimize annoyances. I hope you would not be an annoyance.
That is not my hope.
And he kind of, he sort of nods slowly and he says, "The hall is full, but if you wish to remain outside, you can bed down in the grass. Make sure that you take care of your animals and don't allow them to attack my people. Otherwise, you are welcome to stay outside. If you wish to do me a service, I can speak about that too. Otherwise, you can be on your way tomorrow."
I thank you for your generous hospitality.
Yes. I am glad to have granted it. And he leans his left arm over, and for the first time you see, because it was leaning back against the handle sort of out of sight, he pulls forward this enormous club. I mean, just absolutely massive. Looks like a tree trunk that he's using, with ridges at the top of it, and then sort of banded with metal in the middle and banded with metal at the end. And he sort of caresses the top of it, and he says, "Have a pleasant evening." And that's where we'll bring our session to a close.
Good night.
Yeah, that's where we'll bring our session to a close. No, I know it's getting late. late for you under the circumstances for reasons we've talked about before. But, wow. So we had attempted getting into Bregdis Fort. Then you were like, the hell with that. Then we went up to Magan's, the Hall of Magan. At least you've had a chance to speak to this ogre. But you've also had a chance to speak to a lot of animals. You've spoken to Thunderclip. You've also spoken to Einar and the horse that he rode, Rusric. And you've had a chance to speak to some pigs, some sheep, talk to two boys, and there's a lot of talking with people today.
A lot of animals.
A lot of
pigs,
animals.
Sheep, and two boys.
A lot of information you had to gather. And I do love the fact that when you're speaking to animals, there's a fluency, obviously, about it that, and then when you're speaking to humans, obviously, or ogres, it's much more halting and so on. And it's going to be very interesting to see how that all gets addressed as you're sort of putting that all together. I'm curious, actually, whether a realfer is sort of like what information he's gathering in terms of what his plan of attack is going to be for all of this, since clearly he's got a freaked out populace and then a lot of like moving parts about how to manage this all. How did you feel about the session today, Trend? Where will the fine folks find you next? And yeah, any thoughts about what a realfer's learning or not learning?
It was good. I was constantly worried that it was going too slowly. I looked over and watched the viewer numbers just slowly trickle down while we were. But it was fun. I very much enjoy the deeper RP aspects of it. I'll be very honest. What's going through my head, or a realtor's head, both of us really, because we're sharing the same brain, is that he is, and I know this is not a very heroic thing, or not a thing that heroes usually do. He is really at a point where he's like, so none of you people are going to do anything about this. It's just the three of us are going to come here and save your asses, and then
unless you get them, unless you rally them, but they may not do that until yeah.
But right now he doesn't see a lot of there aren't a lot of embers that he feels like he can fan, and so there is a steadily growing part of him that is like, I should just leave. These people don't want help. If they are this content, even though they're beaten down, if they are this content to keep things as they are, if they are too afraid to do anything, I'm not going to tell them that they can't live their lives the way they want to live it. And part of him is very tempted to say, okay, fine, stay that way, and just leave. Which is not a heroic thing to do at all. But it is pragmatic, and
it is pragmatic,
which is much more in line with his nature upbringing. It's like, okay, well, I could either fight this gigantic rabid bear or I could go fishing.
Yes, when put that way, I suppose. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, he understands that he's got still a boatload of people, waiting offshore for him, and the only reason that he didn't that he when he got to the hut and was like, all right, never mind, bye, was just like, I mean, he's got some money on him, but nobody told him that he was going to have to bribe his way in. He was told that yes, the Lord will absolutely talk to you. And so when the Lord's servants are like, oh, no, if you want to talk to him, you got to get past us. It's like, all right, I'll make sure he knows that.
Yep.
Dick. And it's just like, when this comes back around and your boss is like, why didn't you come to me? I'm pointing at you.
Yeah. And there's information gathering that's happening too, obviously, as you're doing all of this. Like, McGann was not the same as his brother, apparently, or at least he doesn't have the same people working for him. Right. He's got his own problems, though, obviously.
Yeah. So, I thought it was a lot of fun, and it's going to be interesting to see where Beowulf thinks things are going to go, and whether he's going to head back and be like, okay, bring the boat in. All right, we're going to go kick some people's asses, and we'll pick up people along the way and stoke the fires of rebellion. Do me a favor, get that weapon away from him.
Yeah.
It's really easy.
We shall see.
Yeah.
Where will the folks find you next?
Here, probably.
Yes.
Whenever we figure out what that is.
Yes, I don't think, I believe that we are done with Eberron now for February. So I think the next time would be next month, would be in March. When we would be back for Beowulf and some more Eberron.
There was talk of potentially being on the 2nd.
Yes, that's right. Which may end up happening. Yep.
So we'll see.
Yep. In which case, that would just be a scant week from this Saturday. So that would be pretty close. But good stuff, Trent. Anything you want to highlight as far as something for people to check out of yours?
Can't think of anything.
Not at present? Okay. Other than to say the general voice work. And, of course, if you are interested in hearing more of Trent's voice stylings, you should check out the Gray Shade audiobook, shameless plug, which was done by Trent and written, of course, originally by me. And that's available at that ! Gray Shade link, which you can find there. Otherwise, we will see Trent back with us soon. Chat, can we get some love for Trent? Thank you, Trent, for this, and I look forward to more Arealfur in the months to come.
Yep.
But in the meantime, sleep well, and I'll talk to you soon. Okay, bye for now. All righty. So that, folks, is going to do it for us for today. Good times. I was very much enjoying this, and I actually was... Hold on a second here. I wanted to see something, just as a quick check. With that. Cool. I was enjoying that. And a lot of this is, sort of coming to grips with this strange place where people have been beaten down. I mean, in the case of what Runesild is dealing with, Tari's character, that is very much sort of dealing with... there's a monster. I mean, that's very obvious now that there is a monster there, and there's other things that are being addressed, but there is not the sense of they've been taken over by sort of cruel rulers. That's not what's happening. In fact, they don't 100% see this monster, even what it's there. So there's that they have to think about one way or the other. This is sort of a different scenario. And it's one reason that I really like the system is to be able to have two different adventures, two different kinds of characters going along two very different paths. And you will see that when you see more of their adventures coming up in the month of March. But I do want us to finish up with our next game here. And then in an hour from now, I'm going to be over on GOGCom's Twitch channel with Pen and Pixels playing some, I believe, Ghosts of Saltmarsh, although we may have a player that may not be available, so I'm not 100% sure. It'll either be D&D or it'll be Dredge. So I will check that out, and I will let you folks know. But I'll be doing something over on GOG.com with Pen and Pixels and the like. Tonight, however, I do want to remind everybody that I will be back here in any event at 9 p.m. Eastern with the amazing Our Vocalist doing the Banner Saga 3. So you'll definitely want to make sure that you are available and around for that. That is going to be a good time. Now, with all of that said, what was I going to do? Oh, yes, next game. So this is I'm going to be closing this down, folks, in just a minute. So now is the time, your last chance to vote on this. This is what I'm going to be playing. Right now, Kinseed is in the lead, but I'm going to be playing one of these a week from today. So it's either going to be Kinseed, Sovereign Syndicate, or Terra Nil. I know that Sovereign Syndicate is an RPG that looks kind of cool. I don't remember much about Terra Nil or Kinseed. I remember that I agreed to do them, that either one of them were fine. I just don't recall what they were. In fact, let me double check quickly. Kinseed is seed. Kinseed. Oh, yes. So Kinseed is basically a story-based RPG with battles against dark fairy tale creatures. It looks a little bit like sort of like Stardew Valley, an RPG world, I think is what it basically is like. And then the other one, Terra Nil. Terra Nil is a game about transforming a barren, lifeless landscape into a thriving, vibrant ecosystem. So we have a strategy video game, which is like a reverse city builder, basically. So we have that. Or that's Terra Nil. Or we have Kinseed, which is like, as I said, Stardew Valley and RPG, kind of JRPG combined. Or we have Sovereign Syndicate, which is more of kind of the Western RPG. So yeah, now is the time to get your votes in. We still have Kinseed in the lead. I'm going to be closing this down shortly. And then, yeah, tonight more Banner Saga with your vocalist and all that kind of good stuff. So, let's see. Going once. Going twice. And sold. Okay. Kinseed it is. People seem to be okay with that, so we are going to go with Kinseed. So the game is going to be Kinseed. I will play that next week. Kynseed. And yeah, it should be fun. I know very little about it, other than the way that I described it. So we will see how the game goes. I will give that a shot next week. So Kinseed will be up next week. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rise up on out of here and head over to GOG.com to get ready for either D&D with GOG Ghosts of Saltmarsh or Dredge. So I'll be doing one of those things. And then tonight I'll be back here with the amazing Our Vocalist doing more of the Banner Saga 3, which should be a good time at 9 p.m. Eastern. So I hope you folks will join us for that. And for Beowulf, you will have more of us on the Beowulf side of things coming up in a few weeks. When we get into the month of March, we will have Trend doing one Beowulf session, and we will have Tari Tunes doing the other session. So those are the two things that we'll be looking at going forward. If you like what you saw and heard today, I hope you will consider following the channel. I hope you'll check out our YouTube with !ArvTube. Discord is !ArvCord. Twitter is !ArvTweets. Website ArvanEleron.com. Also ArvSky, !ArvSky for the blue sky. Website ArvanEleron.com. Financially, !Arv shop is the merchandise area. You can get stuff for the Infinity and Beyond crew with Eberron. You can get stuff for Shire Adventures. You can get stuff for Adventures of Middle-earth, some general Arvan Eleron type stuff, and you will soon be able to get some Expedition for the Mysterious Peaks, and there might be a little bit else popping up on there as well. So good stuff for you, and good stuff for others. So there's that. Then we've got Arv Treon. That is the Patreon. Which is, the blue sky link. Yeah. Arv Treon, which is the Patreon. Again, that is the financial backbone of the channel. So it really does help us out when you're able to support that. So please consider jumping on board for that. That would be lovely. Arv Treon. And then we've got subscribing to the channel, which is always really helpful. That gives you those custom sub badges and emotes to use here, there, and everywhere across Twitch. That is always appreciated as well. You can also, of course, support us on the publishing side. Icarus is my graphic novel from Athos Arts. Exclamation Point Library is Tales and Tomes from the Forbidden Library. That's my 5e adventure and sourcebook from Alligator Alley Entertainment. And exclamation point Greyshade, which is my Greyshade IP. So we've got Greyshade and Renegade, the first 2 books in the Grey Assassin trilogy. We have the audiobook by Trent Sparks again of Greyshade. You can get those at the link right now. You can also pre-order the tabletop role-playing game of Greyshade, being designed by Brandon O'Brien. That's going to come out from Alligator Alley late this year. And Heretic, which I have just finished the first draft of. I have to do an editing pass as well. I've been doing an editing pass already, but I have to do another editing pass before sending it off to my editor for further work. So, but that is right on track to be released in the summer of this year. So I'm very excited for that with Heretic as well. And as always, exclamation point BLM, Black Lives Matter, important to affirm and assert the significance and importance of Black lives. Exclamation point Help Now, the World Health Organization page on suicide prevention. Important to reach out to others when you need help and reach out to others when they need help as well. And exclamation point Ukraine, UKRAINE, to help the people of Ukraine as they fight back against an illegal and illegitimate war with bravery and courage, and send the message that we will do so for others in the future as well. Again, I will be over on GOG's Twitch channel today at 4 p.m. Eastern, between 4 and 4:15 p.m. Eastern, either with D&D with GOG Ghosts of Saltmarsh or with Dredge. And then I will be back here at 9 p.m. Eastern with more of the Arvocalist with the Banner Saga 3. I want to thank the amazing people who made this a great stream. Thank you to Dragon Spear, to Prince Justin, and Triffity Mats, best mods in the business. Thank you to my Patreon supporters and subscribers, Dragon, Prince Justin, Triffid, Effect Life, Trendane. I'll come back to Trend in a minute. Thank you so much to those lovely folks. And thank you to my viewers, to Aaliyah, thank you to Aqua, thank you to Baron Valar, thank you to Big Boss. What's up, Big Boss? Thank you to I Create, thank you to Jagtrist, Mr. Jonas, Nonstop lurking there. Thank you to Regress, thank you to Aaron, thank you to Robix, Suoxy, thank you to Tarsay, thank you to Zin, thank you to all of you lovely folks for checking this out. Are we all, so we're now all set? I think that should work properly. If I just double check quickly. Yeah, there it is. That pops it right up. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. Also, reminder chat, friendly reminder that you can also check out my new Gen GMs show over on my YouTube, over on the YouTube channel for Gen GMs. And we have just dropped our second long episode over there. That is the one with myself and Zach Clay talking about DMing and all that kind of good stuff. And so, hang on just a second. Okay, I did ask that already. 1 second. There we go. So again, the link is right here. That's the link right there. We have just released our second long form video, which is basically we talk about 5th edition. We talk about player dynamics and great scenes. And we also talk about GM versus GM less play. So if you're interested in all of that, please head over there and subscribe there and spread the word if that is something that you find of interest. But otherwise, I'm going to head on out. I want to thank everyone for having been here today. And special thanks to Trendane for doing an awesome job today with Arilfer. And I look forward to more coming from Tren and Tari and all that lovely crew down the line. I'll see you over at GogCom's Twitch channel in about 45 minutes or so with either D&D or some Dredge. And then back here at 9 p.m. Eastern for the Avocalist and some more Banner Saga 3. Until all that, everyone, please be good to each other. And thanks. I'll catch you folks down the line. Bye for now. Then on the strand, with steeds and treasure and armor, their roomy and ring-dight ship was heavily laden. High its mast rose over Hrothgar's hoarded gems. A sword to the boat guard Beowulf gave, mounted with gold. On the mead bench, since he was better esteemed, that blade possessing heirloom old. Their ocean keel boarding, they drove through the deep, and Daneland left. A sea-cloth was set, a sail with ropes firm to the mast, the flood timbers moaned. Nor did wind over billows that wave-swimmer blow across from her course. The craft sped on, foam-necked it floated forth o'er the waves, keel firm bound over briny currents. till they got them sight of the Geatish cliffs, home-known headlands. High the boat, stirred by winds, on the strand updrove. Helpful at haven the harbor guard stood, who long already for loved companions by the water had waited and watched afar.